Chapter 613. 613 The Underworld God Meditation. So the Tao of inscription is so complicated and profound. Its history is so ancient that it's even older than martial arts. Lu Ming muttered in shock. In the past, he had thought that the Tao of inscription only existed to support the martial Tao. It seemed that he had been wrong and mistaken. The primordial era was an era that was even older than the ancient, primordial, and primordial times. When the human race first appeared, there was no martial arts. The human race had comprehended a kind of pattern based on the traces of the world and the great trend of the mountains and rivers. This pattern was the earliest inscription. In the end, it developed and expanded, forming a kind of great Tao. The Tao of inscription was one of the oldest Taos in the world. The Tao of inscriptions could be used to forge weapons, refine pills, inscribe formations, and so on. In order to practice the Tao of inscription, one must first light up a mental fire in the sea of consciousness. Mental fire was also known as the fire of inscription. Only by igniting the mental fire could one be considered to have officially stepped onto the path of inscription. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, silavirer, and gold. Alchemists were divided into 9 levels, and the color of the mental fire at each level was different. A level 1 mind fire was red, and a level 2 mind fire was orange. And so on, the mental fire of a 9th rank alchemist was golden. Each person had 10 mind lamps in their sea of consciousness at each level. The more mind lamps were lit, the stronger the mind fire. Mental fire was the foundation of an inscription master. The stronger the mental fire, the more precise one's control of inscriptions would be. Generally speaking, at each level, one could advance if they could light 3 spirit lamps. For example, if a first-level alchemist lit up 3 red spirit lamps, he could advance and break through, turning the color of his spirit fire into orange and lighting an orange spirit lamp. After cultivating and lighting up 3 orange lamps, he could continue to break through. However, this kind of inscription master was just an ordinary inscription master. They were mainly used to assist in the cultivation of martial arts. They were also the inscription masters that Lu Ming often saw. Only by lighting up 6 mind lamps at each level, or even more, could one be considered a pure inscription master, known as a true inscription master. Of course, if one could light up 10 spirit lamps at each level, they would be perfect and the strongest inscriber. However, according to Dandan, it was too difficult to light up 10 spirit lamps. Such an inscriber would become extremely powerful once they reached rank 5. This jade token only contains some basic knowledge. Take a look at the rest. There's also an introduction on how to cultivate and some low-level inscriptions that I've collected and mastered. Kid, I'll let you have a good look. On his shoulder, Dandan said triumphantly while chewing on the spirit herb. Lu Ming took out another jade card and placed it between his eyebrows. This jade tablet contained all the records about the level 1 inscriptions. There were hundreds of thousands of them. Lu Ming was dazzled. After a long time, he picked up another jade card. This jade card also had a level 1 inscription. After that, 6 to 7 jade plates were filled with level 1 inscriptions. In total, there were more than 3 million types. Lu Ming was shocked. He had never eaten pork but had never seen a pig run. Although Lu Ming was not an alchemist, he still had some general knowledge. Although level 1 inscriptions were the lowest level inscriptions and were the most numerous, it was already good enough for an ordinary inscriber to master hundreds of them. However, there were more than 3 million of them here, which was simply terrifying. Then, Lu Ming continued to watch. After that were the level 2 and level 3 inscriptions. Dandan did not have a level 4 inscription. There were also over 1 million types of level 2 inscriptions and over 600,000 types of level 3 inscriptions. The number was shocking. How is it? I've lived for countless years and have come into contact with countless inscriptions. Now, do you believe me? At the sight of Lu Ming's shocked expression, Dandan felt extremely pleased and proud. This time, Lu Ming did not give a heavy blow. This fellow had actually mastered so many inscriptions. Perhaps what it said was true. The last jade tablet contained a cultivation technique for cultivating the mental energy fire. The cultivation method was called the meditation of the underworld. Lu Ming comprehended for a while and opened his eyes. Kid, how is it? Isn't this spiritual cultivation technique earth-shattering? Dandin immediately asked smugly. I don't feel anything. Lu Ming shook his head. No feeling. You really don't know your stuff. Dandin pursed her lips and said, that's true. You haven't started cultivating yet, so you won't be able to experience the wonders of this cultivation technique. Let me tell you, if this cultivation technique is leaked, even a martial emperor will hunt you down. All the inscription masters in the world will hunt you down. It's that serious? Lu Ming was skeptical. Nonsense, do you think I would lie? Kid, you don't have a fire seed now, but you'll know the benefits when you find one, light your spirit fire, and start cultivating. Also, let me tell you. If you want to cultivate the Tao of inscription, you must be careful with the flame and it must be strong. If you use an ordinary flame to ignite the mental fire, it will have a great impact on your cultivation of the mental fire later on. The higher the level of the flame, the more powerful it will be. In the future, your cultivation will be twice as effective with half the effort. The power of the mental fire will also be stronger. In the future, whether it's refining weapons, refining pills, or inscribing inscriptions, it will be of great help to you. Dandin warned. Lu Ming nodded. Since he was going to cultivate, he would naturally cultivate in the best direction. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of time? He planned to wait until he found a satisfactory fire seed before lighting up the mental energy fire. For the time being, he would put the matter of inscription aside. After that, he continued to comprehend the thunder concept. 3 days later, Mu Xiuyuan came to find him and told him that Mulan had left for a secret place far away to cultivate. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. He knew that Mulan was most likely still angry with him. Otherwise, why didn't she even come to say goodbye? He could tell that Mulan was interested in him. How could he not have feelings for Mulan? However, in his heart, there was someone he could not let go of. Mu Xiuyuan said a few words and left. Lu Ming was deep in thought. Let's not think about these things for the time being. Now, improving my strength is the most important thing. Everything can wait until I pass the test of DE and Martial Emperor. Now, it's time to go back. Lu Ming planned to return to the Lu family and use the elixir of life to treat Lu Yuntian's injuries. The next day, Lu Ming left Tianxian City and headed east at top speed. Given Lu Ming's terrifying speed, he arrived at the Eastern Palace in just 5 days. Lu Ming is back. The moment Lu Ming entered the Eastern Palace, the news of his return spread throughout the entire palace. Teleportation and disappearance happened very quickly. The news that Lu Ming had defeated the sacred constellation had already been sent back to the Eastern Palace. Countless people rushed out, wanting to meet Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's figure flashed, avoiding the crowd and appearing outside the Eastern Sky Courtyard. He saw a figure outside the Eastern Sky Courtyard. Chapter 614. 614 The Zhuang Siblings. Palace Master. Lu Ming called out. This figure was actually the palace lord of the Eastern Palace, Mu Zheng. It turned out that Mu Zheng had already returned to the east. Lu Ming, I knew you would be here. Mu Zheng said with a smile. Palace Master, please come in and sit. Lu Ming smiled. Mu Zheng nodded and the two of them walked into the Eastern Sky Courtyard. Lu Ming, what are your plans from now on? Mu Zheng asked as the two of them sat down in the courtyard. I plan to go home first. After a while, I'll go to other large regions to train. 2 years later, I'll participate in the Battle of Providence. Lu Ming did not mention Desolate but told her his plans. So you already know about the Battle of Providence. It seems like Yan Kuangtu told you about it. I was going to tell you about this as well. This matter is of great importance to you. If you can perform well in the Battle of Providence, you might be able to reach Yan Kuangtu's level in the future, or even surpass him, and become the new legend of the Tianxian region. Mu Zheng looked at Lu Ming with bright eyes, full of anticipation. Lu Ming smiled and did not say much. The legend of the Tianxian region? To be honest, he didn't care. By the way, Palace Master, I have something to ask you. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and asked. Oh. What's the matter? Mu Zheng said. Immediately, Lu Ming asked Mu Zheng about old Zhuang's family. When they were on their way to Tianxian City and were ambushed by the people of the Sky Corps sect, old Zhuang had given him his storage ring before he died. Lu Ming had once said that he would hand his storage ring to his family. Yes, I'll send someone to investigate. I'll give you the news tomorrow. Mu Zheng nodded. He chatted with Lu Ming for a while more before he bade farewell and left. On the second day, Mu Zheng indeed sent a message. Old Zhuang did have a family living in the Myriad Stars city. He had a son and a daughter. Lu Ming immediately went to the Myriad Star city. To the north of Myriad Stars, there was a small courtyard with weeping willows fluttering in the wind. It was quite elegant. However, at this moment, it was broken by an inharmonious scene. A group of people surrounded the front of the courtyard. Bastard, don't even think about taking my sister away. A furious roar rang out. The voice came from an 18 or 19-year-old young man. The young man was tall and burly, and he looked simple and honest. At this moment, his face was full of anger as he stared at a middle-aged man with a refined appearance in front of him. Behind the young man was a 16 or 17-year-old girl. The girl had a delicate and sweet appearance. One look and one could tell that she was a rare beauty. At this moment, the young girl was also staring at the middle-aged man with an angry expression. The young man's name was Zhuang Shaoshan, and the young girl's name was Zhuang Xiaoro. Their father was old Zhuang, who had been ambushed and killed by the Heavenly Corpse sect on their way to the Tianxian region with Lu Ming. The scholarly middle-aged man they were glaring at was called Yao Gu. He was a good friend of their father and also the Ditian Divine Guard of the Ditian Divine Palace. His cultivation was similar to old Zhuang's. When old Zhuang was still around, Yao Gu had a good relationship with him. He had taken good care of Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro. He did not expect Yao Gu to reveal his beast-like side after the incident with old Zhuang. He actually wanted Zhuang Xiaoro to be his concubine. Hee, little brat, you think you can stop me? Let me tell you, when your father went to the Tianxian region, he borrowed a mid-level 5 spiritual weapon from me. Although he is dead, the spiritual weapon still needs to be returned. Either you give me the spiritual weapon, or let your sister be my concubine and serve me well. Then, I will forget about the spiritual weapon. Yao Gu laughed coldly. His eyes scanned Zhuang Xiaoro's body without any restraint, and they were filled with passion. He had been coveting Zhuang Xiaoro's beauty for a long time. It was just that he could not lay his hands on her back when old Zhuang was around. Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro's faces were pale. Both of them were martial grandmasters, so how could they have a middle-level 5 spiritual weapon? I will return the middle-level 5 spiritual weapon to you. I will work hard to cultivate and earn spiritual crystals to buy a spiritual weapon to return it to you. Don't take my sister and Xiaoro away. Zhuang Shaoshan stood in front of Zhuang Xiaoro and said. Wait for you to return. When will I have to wait? 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years. Perhaps you won't be able to take out a middle 5th level spiritual weapon in your entire life. Alright, move aside. I'm an acquaintance of your father, and I don't want to make things difficult for you. Yao Gu sneered. But Zhuang Shaoshan stood there stubbornly, glaring at Yao Gu. Yao Gu frowned. Brat, Lord Yao gave you face, but you don't know how to appreciate it. You're really looking for death, get lost. A big man with a knife scar on his face shouted. He strode forward and slapped Zhuang Shaoshan. Zhuang Shaoshan gritted his teeth, and a long spear appeared in his hand, stabbing toward the knife-scarred man's palm. Little brat, you're just a 9th-grade great martial master and you dare to resist? You're overestimating yourself. The man with the knife scar sneered hideously. He turned his palm into a claw and burst out his Jin Qi. He grabbed Zhuang Xiaoshan's long spear and shook it. This man with a knife scar was a half-step king warrior, which was much stronger than Zhuang Xiaoshan. With this shake, his Jin Qi exploded, shaking the long spear. Zhuang Xiaoshan screamed and flew backward, hitting the wall of the courtyard and cracking it. Zhuang Xiaoshan continued to spit out blood. Brother! Zhuang Xiaoro cried out in shock and rushed to Zhuang Xiaoshan with tears in her eyes. Xiaoro, let's go, let's go. Zhuang Xiaoshan shouted. Go, where do you want to go? You can stop dreaming. The man with the knife scar strode forward and sneered. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro's faces were filled with despair. Little beauty, it's your fortune that Lord Yao has taken a fancy to you. Go back and serve Lord Yao well. If you serve him well, you'll have a good life. The man with the knife scar sneered and reached out to grab Zhuang Xiaoro. Bastard, get lost. Zhuang Xiaoshan roared and struggled to get up, but he was already seriously injured. The bone armor on one of his arms was broken, so he couldn't exert any strength at all. Zhuang Xiaoro shouted in anger and tried her best to resist, shooting out a few rays of light. However, she was only a 5th-grade great martial master, which was much weaker than the scarred man. She was easily defeated by the scarred man. He grabbed her shoulder and injected his true qi into her. Zhuang Xiaoro's true qi was sealed, and she had no power to resist. Brother! Zhuang Xiaoro screamed as tears streamed down her face. Xiaoro! Zhuang Xiaoshan roared angrily, his eyes almost splitting. He struggled to get up, but the man with the knife scar kicked him, and Zhuang Xiaoshan flew far away, coughing up blood. Yao Gu waved his folding fan and sneered. In the surroundings, there were also some residents watching, but no one said a word. The Myriad Stars city was too huge, and the number of people was unknown. Such things happened every day. It was impossible for the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace to manage everyone. Moreover, the majority of the people in the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace were in the plain. The Myriad Star City was merely a city that was used as a transit point. Moreover, Yao Gu himself was a level 4 Martial King realm lower tier. In the Myriad Stars City, he was the peak existence. Who would dare to provoke him? Hee, let's go. We'll go back and serve Lord Yao. The knife-scarred man's eyes swept across Zhuang Xiaoro's body, and a light flashed. Chapter 615. 615 How do you want to die? This little girl is really pretty and has a good figure. If Lord Yao is tired of playing with her, perhaps he will reward her to me in the future, hee. The knife-scarred man thought happily. The reason why he was so enthusiastic was because he had this idea. Because in the past, Yao Gu had given women he was tired of playing with to his subordinates. Behind Yao Gu, the others gritted their teeth and looked at the man with the knife scar enviously. They secretly regretted not moving faster just now and letting that guy beat them to it again. You'd better, immediately, let go of your dirty hands. At this moment, an extremely cold voice rang out. His voice was like the snow in winter, cold and bone-chilling. A young man around the age of 20 strolled over, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He was naturally Lu Ming. After he got old Zhuang's address and his family's situation, he immediately rushed over, but he encountered this scene. The knife-scarred man looked at Lu Ming gloomily and sneered, "Kid, are you talking to me? I'll give you 3 breaths of time to let go of your dirty hands. Otherwise, die." 1. Lu Ming said coldly. Ha, brat, you're very arrogant, but arrogance requires skill. The knife-scarred man laughed. 2. Lu Ming said coldly. The knife-scarred man's face changed and he angrily shouted, "Kid, do you know who my master is? My lord is a lower-tier king and a level 3 Empyrean Heaven Divine Guard. You'd better behave yourself." 3. Lu Ming coldly spat out the word 3 and said, "Time's up, you have no chance." Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Ming's figure disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared in front of the scarred man, clasping his throat and lifting him up high. The scar-faced man's eyes popped out immediately. He could not exert any strength at all. There was fear in his eyes. Just now, he did not react at all. Lu Ming's speed was too fast. Naturally, he let go of Zhuang Xiaorou's shoulder. "Brother!" Zhuang Xiaorou quickly ran to Zhuang Xiaoshan's side to check on his injuries. "Xiaorou, I'm fine." Zhuang Xiaoshan struggled to get up. He looked at Lu Ming with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Who is this young man? Is he father's friend? Why didn't I hear father mention it before?" Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou looked at Lu Ming and thought to themselves. "Lord Yao, save me, save me!" The knife-scarred man shouted. At this moment, Yao Gu's expression was grave. He did not see clearly how Lu Ming had attacked. "Don't cry out. No one can save you today. Go on your way," Lu Ming said coldly. "No, no!" The knife-scarred man screamed in horror. His hands were grabbing and his feet were kicking, as if he wanted to grab a trace of hope. However, in Lu Ming's hands, he was just a little chick. He could not resist at all. "Kacha!" Lu Ming exerted some force and broke the knife-scarred man's neck. The knife-scarred man's cries stopped abruptly. "Brat, how dare you! You actually dare to kill people in the 10,000 Stars City." Someone, quickly inform the law enforcement team of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace to take down this evil demon. Yao Gu roared. The reason why he did not make a sound just now was that he was waiting. He was waiting for Lu Ming to kill the knife-scarred burly man. Then, he would have an excuse to call the law enforcement team. In the Myriad Star City, it was fine to injure or even maim people. But killing people was not allowed. They would be punished by the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's law enforcement team. This was the rule. Sometimes, when dealing with someone, one didn't need to use force to solve it. One could just use their brain. Yao Gu thought smugly. As for the sacrifice of the knife-scarred man's life, what was that? It was just a dog. Now, it's your turn. Lu Ming did not seem to know that he had committed a serious crime. He looked at Yao Gu and the rest with a cold expression, his killing intent overflowing. Yao Gu's expression changed and he shouted angrily, "Brat, what are you trying to do? Do you still want to kill us? You're simply guilty of the most heinous crimes, you're crazy, and you're a demon. You scums. You're a scourge if you stay in the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. You must all die." Lu Ming strolled forward, his voice cold. "Brat, you think killing a half-step king is that big of a deal? I'll cripple you." A level 1 Martial King Realm burly man jumped out and threw a punch at Lu Ming. This punch was accompanied by the will of the mountain. It was like a burly man smashing toward Lu Ming with shocking power. Bang! The next moment, he was kicked by Lu Ming and flew out. He fell on the ground dozens of meters away and was no longer breathing. He was dead. "Brat, you've killed another person. You're dead." Yao Gu roared. "You talk too much nonsense." Lu Ming shouted coldly and flicked his fingers. Whoosh! 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 More than a dozen spearlights burst out. After that, more than a dozen shrieks could be heard. Yao Gu's men, regardless of whether they were martial kings or above, were all nailed to the ground by the spear ray. He only spared Yao Gu. Hiss hiss hiss. The surrounding onlookers gasped. In their eyes, this young man was too ruthless. In the 10,000 Stars city, he didn't show any mercy and killed more than a dozen people in a row. Wasn't he afraid of the law enforcement team's punishment? Or was it because he had already killed one person in the beginning and decided to go all out? At this moment, Yao Gu's face was ashen, and a trace of fear could be seen in his eyes. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou's eyes revealed a trace of worry. Lu Ming had killed so many people. The law enforcement team was about to arrive. What should they do? So, how do you want to die? Lu Ming looked at Yao Gu. You're finished, you've killed so many people, you're finished. Yao Gu roared, but his body retreated. However, Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared in front of him. Ah, I'll kill you. Yao Gu was shocked and immediately roared. A saber appeared in his hand and he slashed at Lu Ming. The attack of a level 4 martial king was extremely shocking. The surrounding spectators retreated, afraid of being affected. But the next scene left them dumbfounded. Lu Ming did not even take out his spiritual weapon. He directly slapped Yao Gu with his bare hand. With a clang, Lu Ming's palm landed on Yao Gu's saber. Yao Gu's medium level 5 saber was sent flying away, but Lu Ming's palm was not affected at all. He continued to slap Yao Gu. Pa! A slap landed on Yao Gu's face and a crisp sound was heard. Yao Gu spun around on the spot for dozens of times and then looked at Lu Ming with a dumbfounded expression. He could not even fight back against Lu Ming. Who was this young man? It was too terrifying. Yao Gu's heart was suddenly filled with endless fear. So, how do you want to die? Lu Ming looked at Yao Gu indifferently. Buzz. Whoosh. At this moment, a series of air-piercing sounds came from the sky. More than a dozen figures streaked across the void and flew over. Powerful auras emanated from these people. Among them, there were 3 lower-tier king-level experts. The Emperor Sky Divine Guard's law enforcement team had arrived. Who dares to kill people in the 1,000 Stars city? A furious roar came from the red-robed middle-aged man who was the leader. The burly man was a level 5 martial king and his aura was as heavy as a mountain. Chapter 616. 616 He is Lu Ming. My lords of the Tribunal Council, this kid is an evil spirit. He started a massacre as soon as he came out. Look at how many people he has killed. Now, he wants to kill me. Seeing the arrival of the law enforcement hall's people, Yao Gu was ecstatic, as if he had found a life-saving straw, and he screamed madly. What? The burly man in red robes from the law enforcement hall looked in the direction that Yao Gu was pointing at. His expression changed drastically when he saw Lu Ming. He had seen Lu Ming before. At this moment, he recognized Lu Ming. Yao Gu did not notice the change in the red-robed man's expression. He stepped back and looked at Lu Ming with a cold expression. Kid, who cares who you are? He must be punished for killing people in the Myriad Stars city. Yao Gu roared in his heart. How dare you, Yao Gu? Kneel down and admit your guilt. The red-robed man roared. Ha, brat, why aren't you kneeling and admitting your guilt? Yao Gu laughed heartily, but his smile froze in the next moment. He realized that the red-robed man had actually called out his name. He turned around stiffly and looked at the red-robed man. He smiled and said, My lord, you. Did you get the wrong name? What do you mean by wrong name? I recognize you. You're Yao Gu, right? I'm talking to you, why aren't you kneeling? The red-robed man bellowed, and a powerful aura descended on Yao Gu. Yao Gu, Zhuang Xiaoshan, and Zhuang Xiaorou were all stunned. The surrounding crowd was also stunned. Wasn't the one who killed him that young man? Now, how could he make Yao Gu kneel? Sir, is there a mistake? He's the one who killed them. Yao Gu pointed at Lu Ming and shouted. How dare you slander Lord Lu Ming? Who is Lord Lu Ming? If you didn't commit any major crimes, why would he kill you in a fit of anger? Kneel down. The red-robed man shouted. What? What? Lu Ming. Yao Gu's face turned deathly pale. He looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. Then, his eyes were filled with endless fear. The surroundings were completely silent. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at Lu Ming. Could this young man be Lu Ming? The news of Lu Ming's victory over the sacred constellation in the profound sky sub-palace had spread throughout the eastern sub-palace, and even the Myriad Stars city. What kind of person was the sacred constellation? He was a top talent on the list of top 1,000 talents of the Eastern Barren territory, and his cultivation had reached the peak king realm. It could be said that in the Tianxian region, apart from the few Sea of Soul realm experts, no one could rival him. Even such a person was defeated by Lu Ming. How powerful could Lu Ming be? Now, Lu Ming was the strongest expert in the Tianxian region. With his talent, he could even be on equal footing with Sea of Soul realm experts. What kind of status was this? Other people would definitely be punished for killing people in the Myriad Star City, but Lu Ming would definitely not. Who would dare to punish him? When one's power reached a certain level, they could override the rules. Brother, he's Lu Ming. He's Lord Lu Ming. We're saved. After Zhuang Xiaorou's shock, she was extremely excited. The young man who had helped them was Lu Ming. They knew that they were saved. No one could touch them. Yeah. Zhuang Xiaoshan said dumbly. He looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of endless admiration. Lu Ming was only a few years older than him, but his achievements were 108,000 times higher than his. He was his idol. Bang! Yao Gu's body trembled like a sieve. Then, he actually knelt down. When he found out that the young man in front of him was Lu Ming, he knew that he was finished. But he didn't want to give up, so he started to beg. Lord Lu Ming, please spare me. The Zhuang siblings and I were just joking. We were just joking. A joke? Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. You think I'm blind? You probably thought that the two of them lost their support after their father passed away, right? It's a pity that you don't know that their father and I are best friends. Lu Ming's voice was not loud, but it spread to the entire venue. Life and death friends? Lu Ming and old Zhuang were actually life and death friends. At this moment, countless people looked at Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou with envy. Although old Zhuang was dead, the Zhuang siblings could do whatever they wanted in the Tianxian region now that they had Lu Ming as their backer. Yao Gu's face was filled with despair. Whoosh! With a flick of his finger, a ray of spear light shot out and pierced through Yao Gu's dantian, scattering his cyclone. His cultivation was completely crippled. All of you can leave first. I will handle this. Lu Ming told the people of the law enforcement hall. Yes. The people from the tribunal council left respectfully. As for Yao Gu and the rest, they had no eyes and offended Lu Ming. They would die in vain. Lu Ming waved his hand and a stream of essential core wrapped around Yao Gu, bringing him to the Zhuang siblings. I'll leave him to you guys. Kill him. Lu Ming said. Kill him. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou were shocked and hesitant. People of the martial path should repay kindness with kindness and hatred with hatred. If I hadn't arrived just in time today, have you thought about your own fate? What's there to hesitate about? If you still hesitate after killing your enemies, what's the point of cultivating? Lu Ming's voice was like thunder, ringing in the Zhuang siblings' minds. Their eyes were filled with determination. I'll kill him. Zhuang Xiaoshan struggled to get up. Brother, I'll do it. A long sword appeared in Zhuang Xiaorou's hand. No, spare my life. For the sake of my many years of friendship with your father, please spare my life. Yao Gu cried out in fear. Just now, why didn't you let us go on account of your many years of friendship with my father? Die. Zhuang Xiaorou's voice was cold as she thrust her sword into Yao Gu's heart. Yao Gu's eyes widened in disbelief. Finally, he stopped breathing. He only wanted to bring Zhuang Xiaorou back and play with her. He had done this many times and there had never been a problem. Why did he have to encounter Lu Ming this time? Good and evil will always be rewarded. This was Yao Gu's last thought. Lu Ming nodded. In the world of martial Tao, the strong preyed on the weak. If one's heart wasn't hard enough, how could one survive in this world? Especially those who were extremely beautiful but had no strength. Their ending was usually very miserable and they would become other people's playthings. Lu Ming hoped that they would change after experiencing this. Lord Lu Ming, thank you for your help this time. Otherwise, Xiaorou, Shi. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou came to Lu Ming and thanked him. You don't need to thank me. It's my duty. Sigh, I didn't have the strength to save your father back then. Lu Ming sighed. The Zhuang siblings' eyes were red. Old Zhuang's storage ring appeared in his hand. He handed it to Zhuang Xiaoshan and said, "This is your father's storage ring. I'll give it to you now." Picking up old Zhuang's storage ring, the brother and sister's eyes turned even redder, and tears flowed down. Then, the brother and sister looked at each other and suddenly knelt down in front of Lu Ming. Lord Lu Ming, please accept us as your disciples. The two of them said in unison. Chapter 617. 617 Two Disciples. Lu Ming was a little stunned. He had never expected that the Zhuang siblings would want to acknowledge him as their master. Lord Lu Ming, please accept us as your disciples. We will definitely work hard in our cultivation and not embarrass you. Zhuang Xiaoshan kowtowed, and Zhuang Xiaorou quickly followed. Lu Ming frowned. He sized up the two of them. Although their aptitudes were not top-notch, they were considered to be outstanding talents. They might be able to achieve something after some training. However, Lu Ming had never thought of taking in disciples. He was not old and most importantly, he did not have the time to teach the two of them. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou looked at Lu Ming with anticipation. The surrounding onlookers also looked on curiously. They were all guessing whether Lu Ming would accept it or not. How about this? I'll take you all in as my in-name disciples. Lu Ming said after pondering for a while. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou were overjoyed. They bowed and said, Master, please accept this disciple's bow. Although they were only in-name disciples and not personal disciples, the two of them were satisfied. Lu Ming could not help but touch his nose. He had a strange feeling in his heart. He did not expect that he would have a disciple so soon. Cough cough. Lu Ming coughed a few times and said, All right, get up. But I'll tell you first that I don't have time to teach you during this period of time. I'll bring you to the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace to cultivate first. I'll teach you when I'm free in the future. Many thanks, Master. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou bowed again and then stood up. All right, let's go to the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace first. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming brought the Zhuang siblings and headed towards the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The surrounding onlookers were all extremely envious. Old Zhuang's son and daughter are so blessed to have Lu Ming as their master. It's really a blessing that they have accumulated over 8 lifetimes. That's right. This time, he's going to be successful. Old Zhuang can also die with a smile. I'm so envious. Everyone was in a heated discussion. The news that Lu Ming had taken in 2 disciples had also spread. Lu Ming led the Zhuang siblings into the eastern sky courtyard. Xiaoshan, you should heal first. Lu Ming passed Zhuang Xiaoshan a bottle of healing pills. Many thanks, master. Zhuang Shaoshan took the elixir, swallowed one, and sat down cross-legged to heal his injuries. Lu Ming flicked his finger and a stream of vital essence flew into Zhuang Shaoshan's body to help him heal. Zhuang Shaoshan's injuries recovered quickly. Then, Lu Ming took out a voice transmission jade talisman and sent a message. Half an hour later, Zhuang Shaoshan's condition had stabilized, and he opened his eyes. At this moment, a figure stepped through the air and arrived. It was Mu Zheng. Xiao Shan, Xiao Rou, this is Palace Master Mu Zheng. Lu Ming introduced the two of them. Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou were both shocked. They quickly walked to Mu Zheng's side and bowed. They had grown up in the Myriad Stars city and had heard of Mu Zheng's name for a long time, but they had never seen him before. They did not expect to meet this legendary figure the moment they acknowledged Lu Ming as their master. The two of them were very excited. Ha, Lu Ming, I just received news that you have accepted 2 disciples. I was just about to come and congratulate you when I received your message. Mu Zheng laughed. Palace Master Mu must be joking. Palace Master, I'm afraid Lu Ming won't have much time to guide them in the future. I want to leave the 2 of them in the Eastern Sky Courtyard and cultivate in the Emperor Sky Divine Palace. What do you think? Lu Ming said, of course, no problem. Don't worry, I'll come and teach them when I have time. Mu Zheng said straightforwardly. Many thanks, Palace Master. Lu Ming cupped his fists. As for the Zhuang siblings, they were naturally overjoyed. Take these 2 command tokens. In the future, you can enter and leave the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace as you wish. Mu Zheng gave Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou a token each. The brother and sister were naturally overjoyed and thanked him once again. Mu Zheng smiled and then took his leave. Shaoshan, continue to heal your injuries. When you've recovered, I'll teach you some martial arts techniques. Lu Ming said. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Zhuang Xiaoshan's injuries had already healed. Lu Ming also taught them based on their talents, passing on some cultivation methods and martial arts techniques. Zhuang Xiaoshan's bloodline was a black mountain. Lu Ming found a low-class heaven-level cultivation skill, the Thousand Mountains technique, in the storage ring for Zhuang Shaoshan to cultivate. As for Zhuang Xiaorou's blood meridian, it was a small, blue sword. It was crystal clear and had a strong water attribute. Lu Ming found a soft water sword technique, which was also a heaven-level low-rank technique. He also gave them a few suitable martial arts techniques. Most importantly, Lu Ming had imparted the Myriad spiritual combat body to the 2 of them. After that, he gave each of them 3 drops of mid-grade primordial origin liquid to help them refine their fleshly bodies. The cultivation of the 2 of them improved every day. This was all he could give the 2 of them for the time being. In the future, they would have to rely on themselves. As for the true war dragon technique, one had to start cultivating it before the invigorated meridian realm. Otherwise, one would not be able to cultivate it. The 3 absolutes of the dragon god also required the comprehension of many different intents. There was no way to teach them these. 7 days later, Lu Ming left the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace under the reluctant gazes of the Zhuang siblings. Now, Lu Ming had to return to the Blazing Sun Empire to treat Lu Yuntian's meridians. Lu Ming flew towards the Blazing Sun Empire at top speed. The Blazing Sun Empire had been stable ever since it was unified. Everyone knew that Lu Ming was standing behind the pool. No one would have second thoughts. With the help of the Mystical Sword Sect and the Crimson Cloud Valley, the imperial family's power was rapidly recovering and becoming more prosperous. The Lu family in the eastern region of the Blazing Sun Empire had also become an extremely special family. Although they were not very powerful, everyone had to give them face. The Lu family had been developing rapidly in this period of time. Countless powerful martial artists had joined the Lu family. The Lu family's strength had expanded by dozens of times, and their business had spread to hundreds of cities nearby. However, no one in the Lu family would forget that all of this was brought about by Lu Ming. Without Lu Ming, everything they had would have vanished in an instant. In the courtyard of the Lu clan's patriarch residence, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping were sitting at a stone table. They were brewing tea and chatting as they drank. Even though Lu Yuntian was the patriarch of the Lu clan, he would not show his face for the minor matters. He would leave everything to his subordinates to handle, and he was happy to be idle. I wonder how Ming-er is doing now. Li Ping suddenly sighed. What's wrong? I miss Ming-er. Lu Yuntian said. Don't you want to? Li Ping rolled her eyes. What a womanly woman. Ming-er is now at the golden age for cultivation, so he naturally has to go out and explore. We'll stay at home and take care of our bodies so that Ming-er won't worry. Lu Yuntian said. Although he said that, the longing in his eyes could not be dispelled. You're the only one with a tough mouth. Li Ping glared at Lu Yuntian. Father, mother. At this moment, a figure appeared in the courtyard. It was Lu Ming. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping shuddered. They looked at Lu Ming and were overjoyed. Ming-er, you're back. Father, mother, Ming has returned to see you. Lu Ming said with a smile. Chapter 618. 618 The Secret Under the Earth Cave. It's good that you're back. Come, let mother take a good look. Li Ping happily pulled Lu Ming to sit down and look around. Lu Yuntian was all smiles as well. Father, mother, Ming-er is very well. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled and sat down with Li Ping and the other two. Father, Ming-er came back this time mainly to treat your meridians. Lu Ming said. What? To treat my meridians? Lu Yuntian's hand, which was holding the teacup, suddenly trembled. Clearly, Lu Yuntian was rather shocked. Ming-er, is what you said true? Can you really cure your father's meridians? Li Ping also looked at Lu Ming excitedly. That's right. Father, mother, this time, Ming has obtained a bottle of the legendary water of life. It can definitely cure father's injuries. Lu Ming moved his hand and the elixir of life appeared in his hand. Elixir of life, I didn't think that there would be such a treasure in the world. Lu Yuntian said excitedly. Dad, take it. I'll help you refine it. Lu Ming, give me, Lu Yuntian, the elixir of life. All right. Lu Yuntian received it and took a deep breath before drinking it in one gulp. He immediately sat down cross-legged. Lu Ming placed his palm on Lu Yuntian's back. Quintessential essence continuously gushed into Lu Yuntian's body to help him refine the water of life. The water of life transformed into a vigorous life force that nourished Lu Yuntian's meridians. Wherever this force passed by, Lu Yuntian's broken and withered meridians would be reconnected. Furthermore, they would become more energetic and tougher. 2 hours later, the elixir of life had been completely refined, and Lu Yuntian's meridians had been completely healed. In fact, they were several times stronger than before. His body was filled with life energy, and his blood and qi were full of vitality. Alright, I'm really alright now. Lu Yuntian circulated his cultivation technique and looked at the fiery red true energy on his palm. He was so excited that his entire body trembled, and tears welled up in his eyes. Lu Yuntian's cultivation base had already reached the martial grandmaster realm. Now that his meridians had recovered, he immediately recovered a little of his cultivation base with Lu Ming's help. It had been so many years. He had thought that he would never be able to practice martial arts or recover his true qi, but now, he had it all back. No one could understand Lu Yuntian's current feelings. Ming-er, thank you. Lu Yuntian took a deep breath and looked at Lu Ming. Father, you and I are father and son, there's no need to thank me. This is what I should do. Lu Ming said with a smile. He was extremely happy to see Lu Yuntian recover. That's great, that's great. Beside him, Li Ping was also extremely excited. In this world, no one understood Lu Yuntian better than she did. Lu Yuntian had always had a heart for martial arts. He was a natural-born warrior. The fact that he could not cultivate was a huge blow to him. Now, everything was fine. Father, take these cultivation methods, martial arts techniques, and medicinal pills. Lu Ming took out the cultivation methods, martial arts techniques, elixirs, spirit weapons, and other things that he had prepared for Lu Yuntian. These were all carefully selected by Lu Ming. They were the most suitable for Lu Yuntian of all levels and were enough for Lu Yuntian to use until he reached the Martial King realm. Ming, do you have enough for yourself? Lu Yuntian asked. He was afraid that Lu Ming had given him so many resources and he would be useless. In comparison, Lu Ming was more important. He was already very happy that he could cultivate. He had to leave the resources for Lu Ming. After all, Lu Ming was at the golden age for cultivation. Father, don't worry. Ming has a lot of resources on him. Lu Ming smiled. Only then did Lu Yuntian receive it. Father, this bottle is a mid-grade innate original fluid. Take it with mother and slowly use it. Not only can it help you cultivate your body, but it can also improve mother's body. In the end, Lu Ming took out the bottle of mid-grade Khanate original liquid and handed it to Lu Yuntian. Mid-grade innate original liquid. Lu Yuntian's heart trembled. He knew very well that the value of a mid-grade Khanate original fluid was simply an astronomical figure. It was a figure that he could not imagine. Taking a deep breath, Lu Yuntian looked at Lu Ming seriously and asked, Ming, what's your current cultivation level? I'm at the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm, but it'll take some time before I can break through to the peak of the King realm. Lu Ming did not hide anything. Peak level 9 Martial King realm. Lu Yuntian's heart skipped a beat. Then, he was overjoyed. Good, good, good. Father will take this bottle of innate original liquid. Lu Yuntian burst out laughing. The peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm was a realm that he did not even dare to think about. Lu Ming had reached it at such a young age. How could he not be happy? This was Lu Yuntian's son. The three of them chatted for a while longer before Lu Yuntian rushed into his room impatiently and started cultivating. Lu Ming smiled. With Lu Yuntian's talent, he believed that it would not take long for him to recover to his peak cultivation. The news of Lu Ming's return did not spread. In the following days, Lu Ming would chat with Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. He would spend the rest of his time fully comprehending the concept of thunder. Half a month later, Lu Yuntian's cultivation base had recovered to the peak of the 9th grade Master Realm. He would be able to return to the Great Master Realm very soon. At that moment, Lu Ming's thunder will finally had a breakthrough and reached the full circle of level 1. Now, I'll start to upgrade my wind and fire intense to the completion of level 1. Lu Ming entered the Supreme Shrine, took out middle-grade profound meaning crystals, and started to break through. 7 days later, Lu Ming had used 3 of each of the 2 middle-grade profound meaning crystals to break through his wind and fire concepts to the full circle of level 1. With all 3 intense at perfection, Lu Ming's cultivation base should have been able to reach peak tier king. However, he did not have enough resources. Lu Ming only had about 6 million supreme-grade spirit crystals. It was not enough for him to reach the peak tier king level. He had no choice but to put it aside for the time being and focus on cultivating the Dragon God's 3 absolutes. He had already achieved level 1 perfection in all 3 intents. He could cultivate the Dragon God's 3 absolutes to the 6th level. 3 days later, Lu Ming was on his way to the imperial capital. He started to think about the things under the earth cave again. Lu Ming did not manage to dig it out when he was at the 1st level of the Martial King realm. Now, he wanted to give it another try. However, before he went to the earth cave, he first found Hua Qi and talked to him about the past. Then, he went to the earth cave. No one noticed Lu Ming's figure. Without a sound or trace, Lu Ming arrived at the lowest level of the earth cave, which was the 14th level, the level that Lu Ming had dug out earlier. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, this place did not affect him at all. He continued digging. The 15th level, the 16th level, the 17th level. When Lu Ming dug out the 17th level, he wanted to continue digging, but he realized that the bottom was empty. Lu Ming dug a hole and dashed down. He realized that there was a huge underground cave below. In this place, the fire's spiritual energy was so violent that it was unimaginable. In the air above the underground cave, a ball of fire was burning like a sun. Endless heat spread out from the ball of flames. Nest, this is the earth core flowing flame. Kid, you've struck it rich. Dandan suddenly shouted. Chapter 619. 619 Igniting the Fire of Spirit. Dandan shouted, extremely excited. Core flowing flame. Lu Ming had some doubts. Kid, you're really lucky. The earth core flowing flame is a top-grade flame in the world. If you use it to light up your mind fire, it'll be perfect. Kid, I'm starting to envy your luck. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. If I absorb this flame, there won't be any fire attribute spiritual chi here. Wouldn't this cultivation holy land be ruined? Lu Ming said. What waste? Let me tell you, if you absorb this core flowing flame, the value of this place will truly burst out. Don't tell me you haven't realized that this place is actually a spiritual eye. It's just that it has been absorbed by the core flowing flame in the past, and even blocked it. After you absorb this core flowing flame, the spiritual energy here will spread out, turning this place into a real cultivation holy land. Dandan explained. It's actually like this. Lu Ming observed carefully and realized that there was indeed a continuous flow of spiritual energy from below. Most of it was absorbed by the earth core flowing flame and was even burned by the hot flames. The remaining spiritual energy spread out with the hot flame aura, forming fire's spiritual energy. Lu Ming finally knew how the earth cave was formed. Kid, this is no time to lose. Let me teach you how to light up your spiritual fire. First, visualize 10 spiritual lamps in your sea of consciousness. Dandan began to teach. Lu Ming started to visualize the spirit lamp in his sea of consciousness according to Dandan's method. The sea of consciousness and the Dantian, in a sense, were infinitely large, like two universes. Although the lightning cauldron occupied a part of it, Lu Ming could visualize the spirit lamp in the other part of his sea of consciousness. Slowly, in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, there seemed to be 10 lamps. However, all 10 lamps were extinguished and did not light up. Now, catch the core flowing flame and use the to absorb it into your sea of consciousness. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming waved his palms and 2 huge palms formed, grabbing the earth core flowing flame. Boom! The earth core flowing flame shook violently as if it had a mind of its own and wanted to escape. The 3 intents of wind, fire, and thunder burst forth. Combined with his essential core, he grabbed the earth core flowing flame tightly and brought it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt that his essential core was burning. The temperature of the core flowing flame was too high. If not for the fact that Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm and that his 3 intents had reached the great circle of level 1, he would not have been able to deal with the earth core flowing flame. Even an ordinary late-stage king would be burned to death. Refine. Lu Ming muttered. He used his essential core and intent to temper the violent elements in the core flowing flame, making it more docile. 2 hours later, Lu Ming began to cast the meditation of the underworld, absorbing the earth core flowing flame and lighting up his mental energy fire. Hoo-hoo. Wisps of earth core flowing flame flew into Lu Ming's glabella and appeared in his sea of consciousness. Boom! In an instant, Lu Ming felt as if he was in magma. The terrifying temperature and flames were burning his body, including his soul. Hot, It was too hot. Kid, you must hold on at this time. The better the flame, the more dangerous it will be when you ignite the mental energy fire. However, the benefits will be unimaginable. Danden's voice sounded. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and tried his best to control the core flowing flame, starting to light up his mental energy fire. Give me some. Lu Ming roared, controlling the core flowing flame to light up a lamp. Who? All of the earth core flowing flame rushed towards the first lamp. The first lamp emitted a fiery red light, followed by a wisp of flame on the wick. At first, the flame was very small, but slowly, the flame on the wick grew bigger and bigger, and finally, it burned fiercely. It was a success. The spirit fire had been successfully ignited. However, this was only the beginning. It was far from the end. When the first lamp's flame burned to its limit, the second lamp's wick also emitted a wisp of flame, and the flame grew from small to large. Kid, the core flowing flame is too strong. This is an opportunity to light up many spirit lamps in one go. You should grasp it well. Danden reminded. Lu Ming activated the meditation with all his might. When the second lamp's flame reached its limit, the third lamp's wick also emitted flames. The flames were scarlet. Then, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. Lighting 6 lamps had already reached the requirements of a true Ming refiner, but it was still not the limit. It was far from enough. The 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th lamps. All 10 spirit lamps were lit up. Ha, perfect, perfect, the first stage is perfect, it is indeed the core flowing flame. Danden laughed. The 10 spirit lamps burned with scarlet spirit fire. They burned fiercely. When the 10 flames burned to the extreme, suddenly, the spirit fire of the 10 lamps all gathered on the first lamp, and the other 9 were all extinguished. The flame of the first mind lamp began to change, turning into an orange flame. Orange meant that Lu Ming had advanced to the second level. The mental fire of a rank 2 alchemist was orange. It was not over yet. When the orange flame on the first lamp reached its limit, the second lamp was also successfully ignited with an orange flame. Just like before, the third lamp appeared, then the fourth. Finally, the 10th. The second level also lit 10 lamps, perfect. When the orange flames of the 10 lamps reached their maximum, they gathered on the first lamp again, and the flame of the first lamp turned yellow again. Yellow flame, level 3 alchemist. Just like before, after the first lamp was ignited, the second, third, and fourth lamps were ignited. This time, he lit up 6 lamps in one go. At this point, he finally stopped and did not continue to light the 7th lamp. The energy of the core flowing flame has finally been exhausted. Ha ha ha, amazing. The first 2 stages of igniting the mind fire were perfect, and the third stage has ignited 6 mind lamps. This is already very rare. Danden laughed out loud and danced with joy. Lu Ming's face revealed a happy expression. Within the same level, the more mind lamps one lit, the more vigorous the mind fire would be. This also represented that one's mind power would be stronger. Lu Ming was now a full-fledged 3rd-level alchemist. Of course, he had only achieved the level of mental fire. However, if he wanted to become a real 3rd-level alchemist, he still needed to practice inscriptions. He could only be considered a true alchemist if he mastered inscriptions. Kid, let me tell you, the strength of your mental fire is not even comparable to the half-baked 5th-rank alchemists here. Hee, the first 2 stages are perfect. Not many people can achieve perfection. However, it'll be difficult for you to reach perfection in your future cultivation. However, I still hope that you'll try your best to reach perfection in every stage. Danden said. Lu Ming nodded. If he wanted to cultivate, he had to work in the best direction. He would work hard. He also knew that Danden was right. An ordinary alchemist would only light 3 spirit lamps before advancing to the next level. Compared to such an alchemist, his spirit power was indeed comparable to that of a fifth-rank alchemist. Chapter 620. 620 Law of Inscription. Let's try to inscribe an inscription. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the air and closed his eyes. He began to think of various ways to inscribe level 1 inscriptions. In his mind, there were more than 3 million ways to inscribe level 1 inscriptions given to him by Dandan. Every one of them was different. Inscriptions were like traces of nature, extremely mysterious. After a moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes. The mental energy fire circulated between his fingers and he began to inscribe in the void. As his fingertips swept across, a mysterious pattern appeared in the void. On it, there was a burning aura. This was a level 1 inscription, inscription of heat. Buzz! The runes of heat flew out and were engraved on the wall. Then, Lu Ming waved his finger and another inscription appeared in the void. This time, it was filled with a cold aura. This was a level 1 inscription, the inscription of cold. With a flick of his finger, the cold rune flew out and was engraved on the wall. Interesting. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and his mental energy fire circulated. His fingers kept moving in the air and runes flew out continuously, shining with all kinds of brilliance. Whoa, success, it's still a success. It's a complete success. How abnormal. On his shoulder, Dandan's turtle eyes were wide open, looking dumbfounded. Lu Ming had lit 10 spirit lamps in the first stage. It was definitely easy for him to inscribe level 1 inscriptions. It knew this in its heart. However, it was Lu Ming's first time inscribing an inscription. Not only was his speed terrifyingly fast, but he also had a 100% success rate. This was too abnormal. From what he knew, even if he lit 10 spirit lamps, it should not be so abnormal. Could it be that this guy is a genius in inscription? Dandan thought in her heart. Ha ha ha, awesome, awesome. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He had a feeling that he was completely in control. He felt extremely comfortable. As he waved his fingers, the speed of inscribing became faster and faster. In the end, only an illusion could be seen waving and moving in the air. A series of runes that were shimmering with light flew out. Lu Ming only stopped after half an hour. Brat, you seem to be very proud. Let me tell you, what are you proud of now? You are still far from it. At the sight of Lu Ming's smug and carefree expression, Dandan was unhappy and deliberately attacked him. Oh. Lu Ming was stunned. I'm telling you, the inscription you just inscribed is only a single level 1 inscription. If you want to refine weapons, refine pills, or even inscribe inscription arrays, you need to combine many kinds of inscriptions. Countless level 1 inscriptions need to be combined, even low-level and high-level inscriptions need to be combined. It is countless times more complicated than inscribing a single inscription. Boy, you still have a lot to learn. Also, do you think that your inscription speed is very fast? Let me tell you, many true inscription blacksmiths can inscribe inscriptions in an instant. They can inscribe inscriptions with a raise of their hands. They are many times faster than you. Dandan spared no effort to attack Lu Ming. Not bad, I'm still far from it. When I have time, I need to practice more. Lu Ming nodded. It was rare for him to say something like that. No, it was turtle language. Dandan placed her hands behind her back and nodded, looking like a promising child. However, deep down, she was still shocked by Lu Ming's earlier actions. What it said was something that others had to slowly master through countless efforts. Who could master it overnight? Lu Ming's speed was already extremely shocking. Kid, try the meditation now and you'll know how amazing it is. Dandan said. All right. Lu Ming could not wait to try it out. He closed his eyes and activated the meditation of the underworld. For a long time, Lu Ming felt as if he was on a mental journey, floating in the endless universe. Suddenly, a large river appeared in front of Lu Ming. It was unknown how wide and how long this river was. It was extremely vast and filled with an ancient aura. Lu Ming felt that this big river had a strong attraction to him, attracting him to approach it. Lu Ming slowly flew over and into the river. What is this? At this moment, Lu Ming realized that he had turned into a ball of fire, a ball of earth core flowing flame. The river was filled with endless mental fire, which was also the fire of inscription. Endless. The spirit fire of this river was endless. It was the color of chaos. Endless. The geocentric flowing flame that Lu Ming had transformed into floated in the air. All around him, wisps of mental energy fire gathered toward the geocentric flowing flame. At this moment, Lu Ming had a clear feeling that his mental energy fire was slowly growing stronger. It's so wonderful. Lu Ming sighed. A moment later, he had an idea and the river disappeared. The underground cave was still in front of him. Amazing, I can feel that the yellow mind fire in my sixth mind lamp is more robust. Lu Ming muttered. Kid, did you see a huge river? Dandin asked. That's right. What's that? Lu Ming asked curiously. He realized that he knew too little. He did not understand this world at all. There are many laws in the world, which represent the heavenly Tao. The river you see is the law of inscription, a supreme law with endless power of inscription. If you run the meditation, you can successfully communicate with the law of inscription and obtain the power of inscription to strengthen your spiritual fire. Your fire seed is the core flowing flame. With the addition of the underworld god visualization, I estimate that I'll absorb quite a lot of inscription power. In the future, you can use this to cultivate and improve your mental fire. Dandin explained. Oh. I seem to have heard that this isn't how most inscription masters raise their mental fire. Lu Ming said. Nonsense, of course not. There are usually two ways for an inscriber to improve their mental fire, Dandin pouted. The first is through weapon refinement, pill refinement, inscription formation, etc., constant practice and constant use of the mental fire. This is equivalent to tempering the mental fire. The more it is tempered, the more the mental fire can be improved. However, the speed of improvement is extremely slow. Most of the inscription masters you've seen use this method to improve. There's another way, which is through refining weapons and elixirs. Those are refining weapons and elixirs beyond one's level. For example, if a level 1 inscriber refines a level 2 spirit weapon, the law of inscription will drop the power of inscription and increase his mental energy. Of course, if he refines a high-quality spirit weapon or elixir of the same level, such as supreme grade or peerless grade spirit weapons, the law of inscription will also drop the power of inscription. It can be done like this. Lu Ming was somewhat dumbfounded. Of course, there's another way, and that's the mental fire cultivation method. It can directly communicate with the inscription laws and absorb the power of the inscription. This way, the speed will be countless times faster. However, mental fire cultivation methods are too rare. Any low-level mental fire cultivation method will cause a frenzy when it's introduced. A low-level mental fire cultivation method can create a powerful inscription force. As for the underworld god visualization, it's the top cultivation method of mind fire. Now, you know how precious it is. Dandin said proudly. Lu Ming was also secretly amazed. Chapter 621. 621 Rapid Progress. Wait a minute, spirit weapons and medicinal pills, aren't high grade the strongest? Why are there supreme grade and peerless grade ones? Lu Ming suddenly thought of this problem. Bullshit, that's because those inscription masters are useless. They can only make top grade weapons. That's why I said that your spear is a waste. If you let that old man make it, he can only make top grade level 6 weapons. If it were a true inscription master, he could at least make supreme-grade weapons. Dandan said with disdain. I see. Lu Ming nodded. Suddenly, his expression changed. Someone's coming down, we should leave. Lu Ming could sense that someone was coming down from above. After the earth core flowing flame was absorbed by Lu Ming, the heat disappeared. The heaven and earth spiritual energy in the earth cave was dozens of times richer than before. Naturally, it aroused the curiosity of others and it was normal for them to come down to explore. Lu Ming did not want to cause a commotion and had no intention of showing himself. His figure flashed, turning into a ray of light and rushing upward. He walked past a few young men, but they did not notice him at all. Soon, Lu Ming exited the Earth Aeon cave and arrived at the palace where he found the flower pool. He then told Hua Qi about the Earth cave. When Hua Qi heard this, he was stunned. Then, he was overjoyed. There was actually a spiritual eye under the Earth cave. With this as a foundation, the Blazing Sun Empire would definitely have more and more experts in the future, and its national strength would also become stronger. Hua Qi immediately sent experts to seal the Earth cave and then considered how to use it. Lu Ming chatted with Hua Qi for a while and left him some pills and secret manuals. Then, he left the imperial capital and returned to the Lu family. From then on, Lu Ming's daily schedule was packed. Apart from comprehending the thunder mentality and cultivating the dragon god's 3 unique skills, he practiced inscription, the underworld god visualization, and improving his spirit fire. Time flew by, and 2 months had passed. It had been almost 3 months since the great battle with the sacred constellation. In the past 2 months, Lu Ming had made great progress in all aspects. The dragon god's 3 absolutes had already reached perfection and had been cultivated to the 6th level. He had also cultivated the 9 dragons heaven-treading steps to the 4th step. Its power was equivalent to the 6th level of the heaven-level superior grade martial technique, which was equivalent to the 6th level of the dragon god's 3 absolutes. In addition, the 3 types of heaven and earth concepts were all at the great circle of level 1. Lu Ming's current combat strength was several times stronger than when he was fighting against the sacred constellation. Now, when he was up against the Holy Star, even without the help of the inscription formation, Lu Ming could easily defeat the Holy Star. Of course, the sacred constellation would also improve and not remain stagnant. This was another matter. As for the thunder concept, it had also improved greatly and was infinitely close to level 2. However, it was extremely difficult to break through to the 2nd rank. It could not be done in a short time. There was a huge chasm between the 1st level intent realm and the 2nd level intent realm, and it was very difficult to cross. The fastest improvement was still the Tao of inscription. After 2 months of cultivation, Lu Ming had successfully lit up another spirit lamp. 7 yellow flames of the spirit color were burning fiercely. He was about to light up the 8th lamp. However, at every level, the higher the level, the harder it was to light up the spirit lamp. The first few spirit lamps were the easiest to light up. Lu Ming's speed of inscribing inscriptions had reached a terrifying level. On a mountain peak a few hundred miles away from Fiery Wind City, Lu Ming had been cultivating the Tao of inscription on this mountain peak. Lu Ming's figure flashed and he stomped on the mountain peak. With every step he took, runes would appear, emitting a bright light. Abnormal, in a short 2 months, he has actually cultivated inscription to this level, this abnormal. On a bluestone at the side, Dandan was lazily lying on the bluestone mountain, basking in the sun. She was still chewing a spirit herb in her mouth, and as she chewed, she was wailing in her heart. After 2 months, Lu Ming had finally reached the stage where he could inscribe inscriptions with his hands and feet. If it were anyone else, without 10 to 20 years of bitter cultivation, it was absolutely impossible. No wonder Dandan was wailing endlessly. Kid, you've barely passed the test after cultivating to this stage. When you become a 5th rank inscriber and your spiritual power can communicate with the power of heaven and earth, you'll be able to burst out with a terrifying attack. She would not admit that Lu Ming was perverted and would attack him. Otherwise, how could it maintain its lofty status? However, it had never been high and mighty in Lu Ming's heart. Let's go back. Lu Ming walked over, pinched Dandan's head, and threw it on his shoulder. Kid, if you dare to pinch my head again, I'm not done with you, I'm not done with you. Dandan shouted hysterically. Lu Ming pursed his lips and rose into the air, preparing to return to the Lu family. At this moment, a strong sense of danger spread from his heart. His skin instantly tightened. Chi. In the sky, countless wind blades cut through the air and fell down on him. They were extremely sharp. Boom! Without any hesitation, he used his 3 intense and true essence. Hundreds of spear lights shot out and clashed with the wind blades. Bang! Bang! In the sky, the sound of explosions rang out and the force shot out in all directions, destroying the mountain forest. Buzz! At this moment, a huge black wind blade fell from the sky. Wherever the wind blade passed, the space trembled violently, splitting apart like water waves. True Dragon Strike. Lu Ming thrust his spear forward and a 3-colored true dragon flew out, clashing with the huge wind blade. The space trembled, and the wind blade and the 3-colored true dragon disappeared. So strong. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Although Lu Ming had not broken through to the peak tier king level, his combat strength was definitely unrivaled among kings. Now, the person above his head actually had combat strength that was not weaker than his. Could it be a great expert of the spiritual ocean tier? No, he didn't feel the boundless aura of the spiritual ocean tier, so he shouldn't be in the spiritual ocean tier. Who's there? You're so sneaky, get out here. Lu Ming turned into a spear's gleam and rushed upwards. He thrust his spear forward and a dazzling spear's gleam soared into the sky. Buzz! At this moment, the space trembled. Lu Ming felt a terrifying force acting on his body. It was as if his weight had suddenly increased by tens or even hundreds of times. But it was different from gravity. Lu Ming felt immense pressure on his body. He seemed to be stuck in a quagmire. Chi. All around him, the sound of air being torn apart rang out. Countless wind blades cut through the air and slashed at him. No, this wasn't a type of wind blade. Although it was similar, it was more wondrous and more dangerous than wind blades. Interesting. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. The aura on his body grew stronger. Just now, Lu Ming did not use his full strength. His true essence circulated rapidly, and 3 intents wrapped around his body. 9 dragons trampling the heavens. Lu Ming turned upside down and took 4 steps forward. Boom! Boom! The heavens and earth went berserk, and the space trembled. Lu Ming broke through the terrifying pressure. He rushed into the sky and pointed his long spear. On a cloud, a graceful figure stood facing the wind. Chapter 622. 622 Goodbye, Xian Yanqing. This woman was wearing a black gauze dress. She was extremely beautiful and had the looks to topple cities and countries. She blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming without blinking. Small. Little Qing. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat at the sight of the woman. He was overjoyed. This stunning woman was actually Xian Yanqing, who had disappeared for more than a year. She had actually appeared here now. He almost thought that he was dreaming. Whoa, what a beautiful woman. He even forgot to chew the spiritual herb as he stared at it with wide eyes. Lu Ming, I thought I'd left you far behind. Not bad. I haven't seen you for a while and you haven't been left behind. Xian Yanqing's crisp voice came out of his mouth. Little Qing, where have you been all this time? Lu Ming flew over. He was also very shocked. He had already sensed that Xian Yanqing's cultivation had reached the peak-tier king realm. This was too terrifying. It must be noted that Lu Ming had many fortuitous encounters during this period of time, especially in the heaven realm. He had obtained a large number of profound meaning crystals and an incredible item like the Path Understanding Ancient Tree. This allowed Lu Ming's cultivation to soar all the way to the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm. However, Xian Yanqing's cultivation was one level higher than his, reaching the peak-tier king level. His combat strength was also extremely terrifying, much stronger than the Holy Star realm. In the short exchange just now, Lu Ming did not use his full strength, but Xian Yanqing might not have. How did she cultivate? What's wrong? Did you miss me? Xian Yanqing stared at Lu Ming with his big eyes and a smile appeared on his face. Of course, you and I have been husband and wife for a long time. When you suddenly disappeared, of course I missed you. I couldn't eat or drink at all and couldn't sleep at night. Lu Ming said with a smile. Damn, who's an old couple with you? Humph, you're taking advantage of me the moment we meet. Xian Yanqing rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. Her smiling face was flushed, but deep in her eyes, she was also very happy. It's been so long since we last met. Little Qing, seriously, where did you go? His cultivation level was actually this strong? If I didn't work hard, I would have been surpassed by you this time. Lu Ming asked curiously. AI. Xian Yanqing sighed and said, I went to a place I didn't want to go, so I found a chance to come out. Oh, did you miss me and come out to find me? Lu Ming chuckled. Who's missing you? Dream on. Xian Yanqing's face turned red again and he glared at Lu Ming. Shameless, this guy is shameless. Beauty, don't listen to him. This guy says this every time he sees a beauty. At this time, Dandan cried out, her pair of black eyes darting around. Eh? This little turtle. Lu Ming, when did you raise a little turtle? It's quite cute, isn't it? Xian Yanqing looked at Dandan with his big eyes. Ha, beauty, listen carefully. I'm not an ordinary turtle. I'm the head of the top 10 battle beasts. My combat strength is unparalleled, I'm proficient in astronomy, geography, and the Tao of inscription. Whatever you want, I can give it to you. It just so happens that I'm lacking a servant girl. Nest, kid, what are you doing? Dandan put her hands behind her back and looked very smug. Before she could finish her words, she was slapped back by Lu Ming. Brat, you dare to slap me? Preposterous, I'll bite, I'll bite. Dandan glared at Lu Ming and bared her teeth. Suddenly, she pounced on Lu Ming, wanting to bite his finger. Lu Ming pinched Dandan's head with his fingers and lifted it in the air. Dandan's short limbs kept struggling in the air, and her eyes were about to spit fire. Seeing that it was about time, Lu Ming put Dandan down. Ah, kid, you're finished, you're completely finished. You actually dare to pinch this lord's head, you're finished. Dandan shouted non-stop. Sigh, I don't have many spirit herbs recently. I have to use them sparingly. Lu Ming sighed. Dandan's scream stopped abruptly, her eyes were wide open, and her turtle shell was moving up and down, obviously angry. Giggle. Xian Yanqing laughed hysterically. Your pet turtle is really interesting. Xian Yanqing laughed. Beauty, I'm not a pet. I'm fighting for the top 10. Before it could finish its sentence, Lu Ming took out a level 5 spiritual herb and threw it to it. It immediately shut up. Little Qing, how did you find me? Lu Ming asked. It wasn't easy to find you. I first went to the eastern branch of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and sparred with that old man Mu Zheng. That old man was stubborn and didn't say anything at first. Later on, when Jian Fengyun recognized me, that old man then said that you had returned to the Blazing Sun Empire. So, I came to find you. I first found Hua Qi and he said that you were in the Lu clan. I came to the Lu clan and happened to see you here. Xian Yanqing explained. Lu Ming laughed bitterly and mourned for Mu Zheng. It seemed like Xian Yanqing had caused a lot of trouble in the Eastern Palace. Let's go back to the Lu family first. My parents miss you. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Why do your parents miss me? Xian Yanqing's lips curved into a smile, his eyes clear like autumn water. After 2 years, Xian Yanqing was almost 20 years old. He was even more beautiful than before. The curves of her body were amazing. She had lost some of her youth and had a bit more mature charm. She was shockingly beautiful. She seemed to be even more beautiful than Mulan and Qiu Yu. The two of them walked side by side toward the Lu clan. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing landed in the courtyard of the Lu family's manor. Father, Mother, I'm back. Lu Ming shouted. Ming-er is back. 2 figures walked out of the room. They were none other than Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. After more than 2 months, Lu Yuntian's cultivation base had completely recovered to the martial grandmaster realm. It had even surpassed his previous cultivation base and had advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the 7th grade martial grandmaster realm. Destruction before establishment. Lu Yuntian's talent had always been very high. After experiencing so many things over the years, his heart of martial Dao had become strong and firm. His comprehension of martial Dao had also become very deep. Naturally, his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Furthermore, Lu Yuntian had comprehended the force of fire a few days ago. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping's gazes swept across Lu Ming, then landed on Xian Yanqing. The two of them were stunned at first, but then they were overjoyed. Miss Nianqing, it's Miss Nianqing. Li Ping shouted. Nianqing greets uncle and auntie. Congratulations, uncle, for recovering your cultivation. Xian Yanqing saluted. He could tell at a glance that Lu Yuntian's cultivation had recovered. Ha ha ha, Miss Nianqing, you don't have to be so polite. Long time no see. I'll ask someone to prepare a banquet to welcome you back. Lu Yuntian burst out laughing. Thank you, uncle. Xian Yanqing said. Why are you so polite this time? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing in surprise. She had never been so polite in the past. Xian Yanqing blushed and glared at Lu Ming. None of your business. Ha ha ha. Lu Yuntian burst out laughing. Li Ping's eyes scanned Xian Yanqing's body from top to bottom, looking extremely satisfied. Soon, the banquet was served. The 4 of them sat down and chatted while eating. Chapter 623. 623 Chaotic Astral Ocean. A day later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were standing side by side on Emerald Cloud Peak outside Fiery Wind City. Lu Ming, what are your plans after this? Xian Yanqing asked. Leave the Tianxian region and go to the vaster world to train and gain experience. Do you want to come with me? Lu Ming's gaze was deep and seemed to be able to penetrate through space and look into the distance. His eyes were filled with anticipation. After all, the Tianxian region was too small. The outside world was more exciting. On the list of top 1,000 talents of the Eastern Barren Territory, there was only one saint planet in the Tianxian region, and it was ranked at the bottom. What about the other heaven's favorites? How powerful was he? How graceful was she? Lu Ming wanted to see how he could become stronger by clashing with those peerless talents. Hearing Lu Ming's words, the corners of Xian Yanqing's lips curled up slightly. He smiled and said, Sure, of course I'm going with you. I haven't even fulfilled the promise I made to myself. Promise? What promise? Lu Ming asked curiously. Of course I'm going to defeat you and trample you under my feet. You can't run away. Xian Yanqing chuckled. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. This girl still remembered this. How long had it been? It seems that women are really narrow-minded. They hold grudges too much. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. However, he still felt a sense of urgency. Xian Yanqing's improvement was too shocking. If he had been a little slower, he would have been surpassed by Xian Yanqing. Moreover, during the time that Xian Yanqing disappeared, the martial arts technique that he cultivated had changed again. It seemed to be even more amazing. Where did she go? Should she barge into a secret place or return to her own home? If she's from her own family, then her family background must be very shocking. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and pondered. However, Xian Yanqing obviously didn't want to talk about her family background, so he didn't ask. What are you looking at? Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at him, then his eyes flashed as if he remembered something. Lu Ming, did you find the secret of the martial emperor's treasure that your father told you about? You mean this? A jade sword the length of a finger appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up. A jade sword the length of a finger appeared in his hand. It was almost identical to the one in Lu Ming's hand. Buzz! Buzz! The two of them poured their Jin Yuan into the jade swords at the same time. The jade swords glowed, and a map appeared on each of the jade swords. On the map, there was a route that led to a destination. The two of them had the same destination. It seems like there are quite a lot of these jade swords. Lu Ming said. As far as I know, this jade sword should be the key to the martial emperor's treasure. There should be 9 of them, and they are scattered all over the Eastern Barren territory. Only when all 9 of them are gathered can we find the key to the martial emperor's treasure. Xian Yanqing said. 9? Then we only have 2. It seems that we have no chance of getting the martial emperor's treasure. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. No, 9. 8 of them have already been born. Xian Yanqing said. 8 swords? How did you know? Lu Ming asked curiously. Lu Ming, don't you study this jade sword? Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming, speechless. Ahem, I didn't really study it. Lu Ming coughed awkwardly. He indeed hadn't studied it much. Before, he had been focused on improving his cultivation with the goal of defeating the sacred constellation. After that, he had been focused on studying the Tao of inscription and hadn't really studied the jade sword. Xian Yanqing glanced at Lu Ming speechlessly. Look, on the hilt of this jade sword, aren't there a few faint inscriptions? Lu Ming looked at it seriously and he really saw some faint inscriptions. There are 9 inscriptions on it, which represent 9 keys. Now, 8 of them are shining, which means that 8 keys have already been born and are in the hands of different people. And this map points to the end point. It's in the chaotic astral ocean. I reckon that the other people who have obtained the key will definitely rush to the chaotic astral ocean. Go directly to the chaotic astral ocean. Xian Yanqing said. Chaotic astral ocean? Lu Ming's gaze flickered. The chaotic astral ocean is extremely famous in the Eastern Barren territory. It was an inland sea, vast and boundless, more than 10 times larger than the Tianxian region. The chaotic astral ocean is filled with islands scattered like stars. Countless martial arts experts live in these waters. As its name suggested, Riot referred to the chaotic inland sea where countless evil people gathered. This was because this place was not the territory of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, or the Sky Demon Valley. Even the Overlord forces would find it hard to conquer this place. Therefore, all the experts who have offended these Overlord forces hide in the chaotic astral ocean. No one will be able to find them. In addition, there are countless big and small powers in the chaotic astral ocean, making this area extremely chaotic and full of killing. It's common for people to draw their blades and kill people if they don't agree with each other. You're not afraid, are you? Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming with a half-smile. The chaotic astral ocean is just what I want. Lu Ming smiled. Lu Ming had the bloodline of the 9 dragons. This place was most suitable for him. Alright, when do you plan to set off? We'll set off in 2 days. He had been back for a few months. It was time to leave. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing bade farewell to Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. Although the couple was a little reluctant to part, they were happy to have Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming go out and explore. Only by adventuring together could they quickly increase their relationship, right? Buzz! Buzz! 2 rainbow lights streaked across the sky and disappeared into the horizon. Their speed was unbelievably fast, and they arrived at Tianxian City in a few days. Given Lu Ming's current reputation, it was not an easy task to take the inter-province transportation array. 2 days later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stepped into the inter-province transportation portal. The inter-province transportation formation formed a huge whirlpool. With a flash of light, the 2 of them disappeared from the altar. The Cloud Peak area is a large area close to the chaotic astral ocean, and its territory is extremely vast. However, in this region, the power of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace did not cover the sky with one hand. Several powerful forces had established their own forces here, such as the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, and the Heavenly Demon Valley. They had also set up inter-province transportation formations. If you want to go to the chaotic astral ocean, you can only teleport here first and then fly there. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had one more thing to do before they reached the chaotic astral ocean. To be precise, Xian Yanqing wanted to seize a treasure from a force in the Yunfeng region. The inter-province transportation formation in the Ditian Divine Palace of the Yunfeng region flashed and 2 figures appeared. They were Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Whoa, this fee is too expensive. Lu Ming's heart ached as he shouted. The distance between the Tianxian region and the Yunfeng region was 23 large regions. The teleportation fee was 1.5 million supreme spiritual crystals per person. The 2 of them had a total of 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. In order to show that Lu Ming was a man, he had to pay out of his own pocket. In the end, he felt a great heartache. Now, he was only left with more than 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. It looks like I'll have to find a way to get some supreme-grade spirit crystals. Otherwise, I won't even have enough to use, let alone break through to Peak-tier King. Lu Ming thought to himself. Chapter 624. 624 Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. The 2 of them left the territory of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and turned into 2 rays of light, heading west. The Cloud Sea Elixir Academy was extremely famous in the Yunfeng region. It was an extremely famous force other than the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and a few other overlord forces. This force mainly focused on alchemy. They were very famous for their alchemy skills, and the pills they made were also sought after by many. Most importantly, the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution had a good reputation. Every month, the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy would open its doors. Warriors who liked alchemy could enter the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy and study there for 3 months. In these 3 months, the alchemy masters of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy would impart their experience and alchemy skills. Everything was free. It was because of this that the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution was able to survive under the influence of the overlords. It was also able to live a comfortable life and become stronger. Their goal was to go to the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy and take one of their treasures, the Heavenly Demon Fruit. Cough, cough. It doesn't seem very good for us to snatch other people's treasures for no reason. On the way, Lu Ming coughed a few times. Lu Ming was a man of principle. Unless it was an enemy, he would not snatch someone else's treasure for no reason. Furthermore, this power had a good reputation. I'm doing this for the people. Do you really think the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution is as good as the rumors say? That's just a trick the people of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy used to deceive the world. I've already investigated clearly. The things that the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy has done in the dark can be said to be infuriating to both man and God. Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. What do you mean? Lu Ming said. Follow me, I'll take you to see. Xian Yanqing said. The two of them flew and a few days passed in a flash. They were already within the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy's sphere of influence. The two of them landed on a mountain range and walked forward. There was a small town in front of them. Most of the residents were ordinary people, but there were also a few low-level martial artists. The two of them strolled around the town. How is it? Did you see anything? Xian Yanqing asked. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the room and his brows furrowed even more. The people in this town are very strange. Most of them don't have much vitality, especially the children. Lu Ming said. That's right. Do you know why? Xian Yanqing asked. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. During this period of time, he had made great progress in the Tao of inscription. Naturally, his vision was different. He thought of a possibility. Before Lu Ming could say anything, Xian Yanqing had already started explaining, that's because the people from the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution often come here and secretly extract the innate blood qi of the babies. When the babies are born, the acquired qi is not strong, so the innate blood qi is the most useful. They use the innate blood qi to make pills. As a result, the babies who have their innate blood qi extracted will not live past 30 years old when they grow up. It's enough for the people of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy to live to 30 years old. They've already married and had children. Their children will end up the same way. Perhaps in the eyes of the people of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, these ordinary people are just some animals they raise or some human-shaped spiritual herbs. Beast? A human-shaped spirit herb? Lu Ming's heart trembled. A cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. If that was the case, the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution was a group of greedy demons and scumbags. It's not just this town. All the remote towns and villages within 1,000,000 miles of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy are in a similar situation. Most of these villagers are ordinary people. The strongest are only warriors. They haven't traveled too far in their lives. They think that people will die at about 30 years old. Xian Yanqing sneered. Lu Ming's expression was extremely gloomy. These people could have lived to 80 or 90 years old, but because their connate blood qi had been extracted when they were babies, their lifespans had been greatly reduced. They thought that everyone could only live to 30 years old. How sad was this? The Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy does far more than this in the dark. They use this infant's blood and qi to concoct pills and then sell them at a high price to some martial artists in the chaotic astral ocean who practice evil techniques, making a huge profit. Xian Yanqing explained. He seemed to have investigated the Cloud Sea Elixir Dispensary very thoroughly. Let's go. I'd like to meet this Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes had disappeared. However, his tone was very cold. The Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy was located on a magnificent mountain range. It was as beautiful as a fairyland, with a magnificent atmosphere and dense spiritual qi. The Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution was actually a family called the Yun family. Because they often opened their doors and taught alchemy to others, they were later called the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. It was said that the head of the Yun family was a Sea of Soul realm expert. Of course, Lu Ming and the rest could not just charge in like this. They planned to sneak in and check out the situation first. In the past few days, the Cloud Sea City in front of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy's gate had become lively. This was because the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy opened its doors every month to impart the art of alchemy. Warriors from all over the Yunfeng region who were interested in alchemy had gathered here. There were even people from other regions. The two of them came at the right time. Tomorrow was the opening day of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, so the two of them started to stroll around the Cloud Sea city. Along the way, it attracted the attention of many passers-by. It was mainly due to Xian Yanqing's beauty. Such a beautiful woman was rare in the world. "Young lady, are you also going to the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy to learn alchemy?" A slender and handsome young man walked over and asked with a smile. His eyes were fixed on Xian Yanqing, revealing a trace of passion. Xian Yanqing glanced at him coldly and did not answer. "Miss, I am Gu Huaxiu, the young master of the Gu family. This must be your first time in Cloud Sea City, right? If you don't mind, I'm willing to show you around Cloud Sea City." The young man continued, revealing his family background as he stared at Xian Yanqing without blinking. As for Lu Ming, he had completely ignored him. "Get lost." Xian Yanqing frowned and coldly spat out a word. Gu Huaxiu's face darkened. Xian Yanqing actually told him to get lost? There had never been a woman who dared to speak to him like this. With a wave of his sleeve, Gu Huaxiu strode away. Before he left, Gu Huaxiu shot Lu Ming a murderous look. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and was completely speechless. He didn't even say a word and was directly implicated. However, he knew Xian Yanqing well. When the young man came up to greet him, he already knew that this would be the result. The two of them continued to walk around for a while. They found a restaurant to have a meal and then found an inn to rest. The next day, it was time for the opening of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing left the Cloud Sea city and headed for the institution. It was easy to enter the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. You just had to fill in some basic information. Lu Ming discovered that there were about a few hundred people who had entered the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution to study. Chapter 625. 625 Yun Haitang. Everyone, you will be studying alchemy in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy for 3 months. You should all have the basics of alchemy. At that time, there will be an alchemy teacher in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy who will teach you. Of course, you can also exchange ideas with the teacher. A skinny middle-aged man appeared in front of the crowd and introduced them loudly. It's still early, so I'll show you the front yard of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. There are some finished pills there, so you can learn from each other. The middle-aged man said. Then, he led everyone to the back. Everyone followed closely behind. Lu Ming looked around and realized that there were hundreds of them. There were men, women, old and young. It was very diverse and they came from all over the world. The crowd followed the middle-aged man and walked around the front yard. The front yard was very large and was formed by several huge peaks. There were palaces and pavilions everywhere, and a faint medicinal fragrance could be smelled. In some places, there were even medicine fields with all kinds of spiritual herbs growing on them. These herb fields were all guarded by specialized people. These people were either skilled in the water or wood concepts. They were the most suitable people to cultivate spirit herbs. Lu Ming, there should be an assessment later to test your alchemy skills. Are you sure you can do it? Xian Yanqing asked in a low voice. I should. It's fine, right? Lu Ming said. In the Tao of inscription, there were different preferences, and there were also a few major branches, such as those that were inclined to refining weapons, alchemy, or inscriptions and formations. However, they all had one thing in common, which was that one needed to use mental fire and inscriptions. During this period of time, Lu Ming's inscription had no problems at all. The number of inscriptions from level 1 to level 3 that he had mastered was enough to make those old monsters who had studied inscriptions for hundreds or thousands of years feel ashamed. However, alchemy not only required inscriptions, but also the identification of spiritual herbs and the prescription. In the past 2 months, Lu Ming had learned more than 10 of the most common pill refining methods from Dandan. He had refined them when he had the time and his skills were quite good. As long as it was not too difficult to refine the pills, Lu Ming believed that it would be okay. Really? Xian Yinqing was skeptical. In her impression, Lu Ming was a pure martial artist and did not cultivate the inscription Dao to assist him. Have you ignited your spirit fire? Xian Yinqing asked. It was ignited a few months ago. Lu Ming answered honestly. How many months has it been? Xian Yinqing pouted. However, the good thing was that even if he failed later on, he would not be chased out. He could still stay and study, but the treatment would be different. The group crossed a small bridge over a flowing river, walked past the pavilions, and followed the middle-aged man to a large hall. The moment everyone arrived at the main hall, they could smell the medicinal fragrance. In the hall, there were chilavers. On the chilavers, there were some small jade boxes with pills on them. These pills were refined by the disciples of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. You can take a look and compare it with your own alchemy skills. The middle-aged man said. Everyone began to look around in the hall. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were also watching. The medicinal pills here ranged from level 1 to level 4. Each pill was full of color, round, and had a medicinal fragrance that made one feel comfortable all over. On the surface of many of the pills, there were fine inscriptions engraved on them, making them look very beautiful. Golden Crow Pill, Essence Enhancing Pill, Wood Returning Pill. Lu Ming saw at least dozens of different types of pills. These pills are full and round, and their purity is very high. It's a pity that the inscriptions are still a little lacking, causing the fusion of the spiritual herbs to not reach a perfect stage. The medicinal effects are also a little lacking. Lu Ming picked up a vitality pill and looked at it. He muttered as he looked at it. This is still lacking. Is that true? At the side, Xian Yinqing was speechless. Lu Ming had only been in contact with the Tao of inscription for a few months. Could he really tell the quality of these pills? You're really full of yourself. Most of these pills were made by the elite disciples of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Each one is full and the inscriptions are very profound. Each one of these pills is of high quality. Even if I were to make them, I would only be a little better than this. What do you know? A sarcastic voice was heard. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young man in a blue robe sneering at him. This blue-robed young man was Gu Huaxiu, the one who tried to hit on Xian Yinqing but was rejected. Then, Gu Huaxiu turned to Xian Yinqing and said, Miss, your friend is really nothing much. He only knows how to talk big and has no real talent. Miss, I advise you to stay away from him as soon as possible. Xian Yinqing glanced at Gu Huaxiu and said, What does it matter to you who I'm with? You really don't know what a good person's heart is like. A fresh flower stuck in cow dung. Gu Huaxiu snorted coldly and walked away. Lu Ming was a little speechless. This brother was really sick. Everyone watched in the hall for a while. After about half an hour, the middle-aged man said, All right, it's almost time. You guys can come with me. The group followed the middle-aged man to a square. Look, Miss Yun Haitang is here. At this moment, someone pointed at the sky and shouted. Lu Ming looked up at the sky and saw 3 figures approaching. In the middle, there was a young woman. This woman looked to be in her 20s and was extremely beautiful. She wore a tight red chiffon dress that outlined her impressive figure. This was a stunning beauty. Most men would be moved by her. 2 elders stood beside the woman. They exuded a powerful aura. A late-stage king tier. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He could tell that the 2 elders were both at the level of a king's tier. However, the young woman was obviously the leader of the 3. The 3 of them landed on the square, and the crowd was in an uproar. Most of the men, regardless of their age, were staring at Yun Haitang with burning eyes. I didn't expect that Miss Yun Haitang would receive us in person this time. Is she going to exchange alchemy knowledge with us this time? That's great. It is said that Miss Yun Haitang is not only the most beautiful woman in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, but also the most skilled alchemist among the younger generation. Her alchemy skills are already extremely profound, surpassing many of the older generation. This time, I must have a good experience to learn from her. Hey, I think you're just pretending to ask for advice. You're really trying to get close to Miss Yun Haitang, aren't you? You're already so old, but you still don't have any self-respect. So what if I'm older? You can still have spring when you're older. The scene was noisy. These stinky men. At the scene, some of the women looked at the men with disdain. How is it? Isn't she beautiful? Xia Nianqing looked at Lu Ming and asked. It's very beautiful. Lu Ming smiled. Humph. Xia Nianqing's lips began to curl up. However, compared to you, I'm still far from it. Lu Ming continued. Chapter 626. 626 Pill Refining Assessment. Xia Nianqing's face turned red as a faint smile appeared on his face. However, if she's really in charge of leading our group, we can start with her. Xia Nianqing continued. Oh. What do you mean? Lu Ming was a little curious. The two of them were speaking via voice transmission, so no one else could hear them. I've asked around. Some of the important treasures of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy are hidden in an underground cave in the back mountain. However, the underground cave is full of inscription arrays. Only the inscription tokens refined by the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy can enter. There are only 10 such tokens in the entire Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, and all of them are with some important figures of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. Most of the important people are in seclusion, so we can't find them at all. But as far as I know, Yun Haitang has an inscription token. As long as we get the token, we can secretly enter the treasure land of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy and take the Heavenly Demon Fruit. Of course, it's also good to take some other treasures along the way. Xia Nianqing smiled and sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. Oh. Lu Ming nodded. He started to think about how to get the inscription token. Quiet down. Yun Haitang spoke. Her voice was so sweet that it could melt anyone's heart. For men, this was definitely a killer weapon. As expected, many people's eyes became even more heated. The fire in Gu Huaxiu's eyes seemed to be able to burn Yun Haitang. This time, you'll have 3 months of study, and I'll be in charge of it. Yun Haitang said, of course, I also know that some of you are already very good at alchemy, possibly far better than Haitang. So, I don't dare to say that I'm teaching you. In the future, we can exchange our alchemy experiences and improve together. This is the most important thing. Yun Haitang smiled sweetly and spoke very politely. Miss Haitang, you're too humble. Everyone in the Yunfeng region knows about your alchemy skills. I hope that you can communicate more with Miss Haitang in the future. Miss Haitang, I am the descendant of the Lu family. I hope Miss Haitang can give me some pointers. Haitang, I am. Some young men with extraordinary backgrounds introduced themselves one after another, hoping to attract Yun Haitang's attention. But Yun Haitang only smiled and nodded, not saying much. After a long while, Yun Haitang spoke again. All right, according to the rules, there will be an alchemy test. There is no other meaning. I just want to see everyone's alchemy standards and what you are good at. In the future, it will be more effective to exchange ideas. Does anyone have any objections? No, of course I want this. Everyone shouted. Some of them had even begun to rub their fists and get ready to perform well to attract Yun Haitang's attention. Hee, this trash wants to attract Haitang's attention. He's a toad lusting after a swan's meat. In my opinion, no one in this group can compare to Brother Gu in alchemy. That's right. In a moment, Brother Gu will definitely amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and attract Haitang's attention. In the future, even if Brother Gu returns with a beauty, it is possible. We are really envious. Beside Gu Huaxiu, a few young men started to flatter him. The Gu family was very influential in the Yunfeng region, so naturally, there were many people who wanted to flatter Gu Huaxiu. Gu Huaxiu's face was filled with pride. In his opinion, these people were all half-baked, while his Gu family was a professional alchemist. In the Yunfeng region, their reputation was only a little less than the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. He had absolute confidence in his alchemy skills. The test is simple. You just need to refine a cultivation pill and hand it over to me. Yun Haitang introduced. Then, the disciples of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution presented an alchemy furnace to the public square. Everyone was given a spiritual medicine to make a Peiyuan pill. Pill furnaces and spirit herbs were the same. Next, it was time to test his alchemy skills. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing casually walked to the front of two alchemy furnaces. However, he realized that Gu Huaxiu had also come to their side. This guy was definitely doing this on purpose. He probably wanted to show off his skills to Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming. Alright, let's start now. The time is half an hour. Yun Haitang announced after everyone had chosen their elixir furnaces. As soon as Yun Haitang finished speaking, everyone focused their attention and began to refine. In the square, wisps of mental energy fire appeared, and the heat began to rise. I didn't expect it to be to refine the essence cultivating pill. My luck is pretty good. Lu Ming revealed a smile. The vitality pill was a very common pill. It was a level 2 pill. Lu Ming happened to have the vitality pill among the pills he had. Lu Ming was not in a hurry to start refining. Instead, he scanned his surroundings. He realized that everyone was concentrating on controlling their mental energy fire and refining pills. This girl is actually a 4th-rank alchemist. I can't tell. Lu Ming noticed the green flame in Xian Yanqing's hand. It flashed and disappeared. The green mental fire represented a level 4 alchemist. The cultivation of an inscriber was much more difficult and slower than that of martial arts. It was already impressive that he had become a 4th-rank inscriber at such a young age. More importantly, Xian Yanqing's progress in martial arts was even more terrifying. Lu Ming realized that there was also a green flame in Gu Huaxiu's hand. It flashed and disappeared. He was also a 4th-rank alchemist. No wonder he was so proud. Then, I'll start too. Lu Ming smiled. With a roll of his quintessential essence, the lid of the alchemy furnace opened. Lu Ming patted the furnace, and a wisp of yellow mental energy fire flashed and disappeared. It surged into the alchemy furnace and began to heat it. Just as Lu Ming began to refine the pill, Yun Haitang's expression suddenly changed and she looked in Lu Ming's direction. What a strong and pure mental fire. Although he's only a 3rd-rank alchemist, the fire seed he uses is no small matter. The number of mental lamps he has lit is no small matter either. He has at least 4 or even 5 in each rank. Yun Haitang's mind whirred. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Lu Ming's side, and they were filled with wonder. However, he did not think that Lu Ming could have lit more than 6 spirit lamps at each level. That was because he was already a true inscription blacksmith. It was too difficult to reach that level. To become a true inscription refiner, it did not mean that one only needed to light 6 spirit lamps at a certain level. One had to light more than 6 spirit lamps at each level. Lu Ming did not know that he had attracted Yun Haitang's attention. He was focused on refining the pills. After a while, the pill furnace was heated up. He used his true essence to roll it up and began to put in various spirit herbs. The order in which the spirit herbs were put in was also very particular. The time and timing between each ingredient needed to be grasped precisely. Lu Ming put in the spiritual herbs one by one. When he had put in all the spiritual herbs, he closed the lid of the furnace and continued to input the mental energy fire to start the refinement. A moment later, a strong medicinal fragrance was emitted. At this time, he could start to condense the pill. This was the most important step. To congeal the pill, one needed to use inscriptions. The better the control of the inscriptions, the more exquisite the pill would be, the better the fusion of the two would be, and the better the effect would be. Chapter 627. 627. A useless pill. Lu Ming's fingers started to inscribe runes in the air. The runes flew into the pill furnace and disappeared. Such exquisite inscription techniques. On the square, Yun Haitang's eyes lit up again. Lu Ming focused his attention and runes flew into the furnace. After a while, there was no longer any medicinal fragrance coming from the furnace. Success! Lu Ming revealed a smile. Then, he opened the furnace, took out the elixir, and placed it on a jade plate. Lu Ming looked around and realized that the others had also started to open their furnaces to take out pills. Ha, this is the pill you made? What kind of dog shit is this? No one would even pick it up if it was thrown on the road. At this moment, a sneer was heard. Gu Huashu walked towards Lu Ming with a jade plate on which the pills he had refined were on. He looked at the pills on Lu Ming's jade plate with disdain and said sarcastically, "The color is uneven. It's obvious that you've placed the spirit medicine at the wrong time. Also, what the hell is this? There's not a single inscription on the pill, and there's no medicinal fragrance coming from it. This is clearly a useless pill." Ha, don't tell me you don't even know how to write an inscription. Gu Huashu laughed and revealed a look of disdain. His laughter attracted the attention of the people around him. They all looked at Lu Ming's pill. As expected, there's not a single inscription on it and there's no medicinal fragrance at all. It's indeed a useless pill. This person doesn't know how to refine pills at all. What is he doing here? He's probably some hedonistic son of some family. He's like a toad lusting after swan meat and wants to pursue Haitang. TSK, I've seen many people like this. How could Haitang take a fancy to such a person? The people around them looked at Lu Ming's pills and started whispering. Young Master Gu, this person is obviously a popinjay who doesn't know how to refine pills. How can he be compared to young Master Gu? That's right. Look at young Master Gu's elixirs. They are round and full, with even colors. The inscriptions are exquisite, and the medicinal fragrance is strong. They are obviously the top-grade level 2 elixirs. No one in this group can compare with young Master Gu. Beside Gu Huashu, a few young men started to flatter him. Although they were flattering him, they were right. The Pei Yuan pill that Gu Huashu refined was indeed the best. When the surrounding people saw Gu Huashu's pills, they all shook their heads and sighed. They couldn't compare to Gu Huashu's pills at all. Lu Ming, ignore them. Xian Yanqing walked over and looked at Lu Ming's pill. Her opinion was similar to the others. However, she knew that Lu Ming had only been in contact with the Tao of Inscription for a few months. It was normal for him to refine a useless pill. After all, Lu Ming's main focus was on cultivating martial arts. Lu Ming touched his nose and smiled. He did not say much. All right, bring out your pills and sign your names. Yun Haitang ordered. Everyone took the refined pills and put them into a jade bottle, then signed their names on the label of the jade bottle. All right, today, you will follow Deacon Sui Feng and find your own dormitory. Tomorrow morning, you will gather here. Yun Haitang said. After that, everyone followed the middle-aged man and went to find their own accommodation. After the crowd left, Yun Haitang took out a jade bottle immediately. The name on the bottle was Lu Ming. Yun Haitang poured out the pills that Lu Ming had refined and observed them carefully. Haitang, this is clearly a useless pill. What is there to see? The two old men at the side said. A useless pill. Uncles, this time, you've misjudged. Yun Haitang smiled slightly, and a look of surprise flashed in her eyes. Oh. The two elders were a little puzzled. They observed the pills that Lu Ming refined in detail. After taking a closer look, the two old men's expressions changed. They became a little solemn, and slowly, their solemn expressions turned into shock. What a brilliant inscription technique, and what a pure pill! The two old men exclaimed in unison. Uncles, I'm sure you can tell that the color of this pill is not well proportioned on the surface. The timing of adding the spiritual herbs was not particularly precise. However, the pill is extremely pure and has almost no impurities. This means that the person who refined the pill has an extraordinary mental energy fire that can burn all the impurities and extract them. Also, this person's inscription technique is extremely exquisite. It's completely hidden under the surface of the pill, and can't be seen from the outside. However, he has fused the pill perfectly and completely locked the medicinal effect. That's why there's no medicinal fragrance coming out. After saying that, a green flame appeared between Yun Haitang's fingers. A green flame represented a 5th-level alchemist. Yun Haitang was only in her 20s, but she had already become a 5th-level alchemist. It was shocking. The green mental energy fire flowed across the surface of the pill. Inscriptions appeared on the surface of the pill, intertwining with each other in a harmonious and beautiful manner. The two old men's eyes widened, and their surprise became even stronger. This Lu Ming is interesting. A strange smile appeared on Yun Haitang's face, and there seemed to be a hint of greed in her smile. As for the other pills, Yun Haitang didn't even look at them. She was not interested. The Cloud Sea Elixir dispensary was huge. Everyone had their own small courtyard, and the environment was not bad. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in his room in the courtyard. He activated the meditation and began to cultivate his mental energy fire. Currently, Lu Ming's cultivation base had already reached a bottleneck while the Dragon God's 3 absolutes had been cultivated to perfection. As for the 5th step of the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps, it was too difficult and could not be achieved in a short time. The power of the 5th step of the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps was equivalent to the 6th stage of a low-grade demigod martial technique. It was extremely terrifying. Martial techniques above the heaven level, even at the demigod level, were also divided into low-grade and high-grade. Only after the demigod level was the god level. Therefore, Lu Ming spent more time on cultivating the inscription Dao. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. The next day, everyone gathered in the square again. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing came together. Soon, hundreds of people had arrived. In the sky, 2 figures stepped through the air. A man and a woman. The woman was naturally Yun Haitang. The man was about 25 or 26 years old. He was very handsome, and there was a faint arrogance on his face. He came side by side with Yun Haitang and landed in the sky above the square. That's the other peerless genius of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, Yun Songsheng. He's extremely powerful in both alchemy and martial arts. He's the second most talented person in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, only Yun Haitang. Furthermore, his father is the head of the Yun family, a Sea of Soul realm expert. He's so handsome and has a good background. He's handsome and talented. If I can marry him, my life will be worth it. A young woman said as if she was smitten. Everyone. Yun Haitang called out, and the crowd quieted down. I've seen all the pills you made yesterday. Sure enough, some of you are very good at alchemy. Even Haitang admires you. I don't dare to teach you. This time, we're mainly exchanging ideas and improving each other. Yun Haitang smiled and continued, this time, Haitang has decided that the one with the best alchemy skills can enter Haitang's courtyard at any time and discuss alchemy with her. Chapter 628. 628 Embarrassing to the extreme. As soon as he said that, it immediately caused a commotion. Among their group, there was someone who had caught Yun Haitang's attention and was able to enter Yun Haitang's courtyard at will to discuss the art of alchemy with her. What did this mean? This meant that Yun Haitang had placed this person on the same level as her. More importantly, he could enter Yun Haitang's courtyard at any time. As the saying went, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. If he came into contact with Yun Haitang more often, he might develop feelings for her. Most of the men, young or old, had eyes full of anticipation. Those who knew their own limits sighed inwardly, knowing that it wouldn't be them. Ha, I think Miss Haitang is most likely talking about you, young Master Gu. That's right. Among this group of people, who has less alchemy skills than Gu? I'm envious. The few people beside Gu Huaxiu started to suck up. Hey, it might not be me. Maybe there are people who are better at alchemy. You should know that there is always a higher mountain. Gu Huaxiu said humbly. Although his words were humble, the pride on his face could not be concealed. Haitang, he must be talking about me. Could it be that he has secretly taken a fancy to me? Otherwise, why would he let me go to his courtyard to discuss alchemy? Ha, it must be so. Gu Huaxiu thought to himself. Congratulations, young Master Gu. You'll be returning with a beauty soon. Someone even whispered beside Gu Huaxiu, making him laugh so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. Haitang, who is the person you're talking about who is so skilled in alchemy? Someone shouted. Yu Haitang smiled and said, this person is young and has a graceful bearing. He is a young man. Haitang, you're too polite. I'm not worthy of your praise. As soon as Yun Haitang finished speaking, Gu Huaxiu stood up and pretended to be humble. Many people also looked at Gu Huaxiu with envy. In their eyes, the person Yun Haitang was talking about must be Gu Huaxiu. However, Yun Haitang looked at Gu Huaxiu in shock and said, Brother, what are you doing? I'm not talking about you. The smile on Gu Huaxiu's face froze. The entire place suddenly fell silent. Puchi. After a while, someone couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed out loud. Gu Huaxiu's expression was too funny. Some people tried their best to hold it in until their faces turned red, while some people laughed out loud. The few people who were flattering Gu Huaxiu just now were also frozen there. Gu Huaxiu's body trembled, and his handsome face turned red. It was embarrassing. It was too embarrassing. It turned out that the person Yun Haitang was talking about wasn't him at all. To think that he was still thinking about his own wishful thinking. He had lost a lot of face. And what did Yun Haitang call him? Brother? She didn't even know his name. Gu Huaxiu wished there was a crack in the ground so he could just jump in. In the end, he could only sit down with a red face. The few people beside him did not even dare to look at him. The hero I'm talking about is called Lu Ming. Yun Haitang smiled and continued. Lu Ming. As soon as he said that, the people around them looked at each other. Who was Lu Ming? How come I've never heard of it? Only one person widened his eyes in surprise. Lu Ming, she's not talking about you, right? Xian Yanqing widened his eyes and looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. She had also taken a glance at the pills that Lu Ming had refined back then. How was it possible? If there's no other person named Lu Ming at the scene who is equally graceful, then this Lu Ming should be me. Lu Ming touched his nose and said. Really shameless. Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at Lu Ming, but he was still very curious. Don't tell me that the pill you refined has some sort of skill. Hee, maybe Miss Yun Haitang has taken a fancy to me. Lu Ming chuckled. Shameless. Xian Yanqing said in disdain. At this moment, Yun Haitang's gaze fell on Lu Ming. Brother Lu, what do you think of Haitang's suggestion? Lu Ming looked around and finally confirmed that Yun Haitang was talking about him. He smiled and stood up. Thank you, Haitang. I think it's very good. Yun Haitang's face lit up with joy. Brother Lu's alchemy skills, this little sister admires you very much. In the future, please guide me. Haitang, you're too polite. Lu Ming said with a smile. Impossible, how could it be him? Haitang, you must be mistaken. At this time, a gloomy voice sounded. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice. It was Gu Huaxiu. Oh, how did I get it wrong? Yun Haitang asked. Miss Haitang, the pill this man refined yesterday was not well proportioned in color and did not have a strong medicinal fragrance. It was clearly a useless pill. This man's alchemy skills are a mess. Miss Haitang, don't be fooled. Gu Huaxiu shouted. That's right, Haitang. I also saw that this person basically doesn't know how to make pills. Yes, I saw it too. Around them, many other people also spoke. Oh. Don't you trust my judgment? Yun Haitang asked, still smiling. Miss Haitang, it's not that we don't trust your eyes, but I'm guessing that this guy used some method at the last minute to exchange for the pill. The pill he gave you was not refined by him at all. Gu Huaxiu shouted. Initially, when he saw that Xian Yanqing was with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing ignored him when he greeted him, he was already very unhappy with Lu Ming. Just now, it was because of Lu Ming that he had lost all his face. Now that he had the chance to embarrass Lu Ming, he would naturally seize the opportunity and not let it go. Oh. Yun Haitang nodded slightly. A jade bottle appeared in her hand, and she poured out a pill. Holding it in her hand, she asked, Are you guys talking about this pill? This is the pill. Gu Huaxiu was stunned and nodded. That's right, it's this one. The others nodded in agreement. That's good. I said that Brother Lu's alchemy skills are superb because of this pill. Yun Haitang said with a smile. How could this be? This is clearly a useless pill. Gu Huaxiu's face was filled with shock. A useless pill? You guys watch carefully. The green spiritual fire on Yun Haitang's finger flowed through it. The next moment, lines of inscriptions appeared on the surface of the pill, intertwining with each other. It was extremely beautiful. This. The inscription was hidden and the medicinal effect was deeply locked. How was it possible? How is this possible? Gu Huaxiu cried out in disbelief. After all, he was a level 4 alchemist born in the world of alchemy, so he had a good eye. Naturally, he could see the truth of the pill at a glance. The others also widened their eyes in shock. The inscription was introverted, this was not something that ordinary people could do. Only those who had a profound understanding of inscriptions and were proficient in them could do it. This represented a certain realm, and only grandmasters in the alchemy world could do it. As far as everyone knew, there were only 3 people in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy who could do this. Chapter 629. 629 Weird Logic. Yun Haitang held the pill that Lu Ming had refined and explained. Under the effect of the inscriptions, this elixir combined all the spiritual herbs perfectly. It's also very pure, and its medicinal effect is deeply locked. It's more than 30% better than the most top-grade level 2 energy cultivation elixir. Now, is there anything that you're not convinced about? Yun Haitang's eyes swept across the crowd. No one spoke. How could this be? You should die. Gu Huaxiu roared in his heart. He looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Today, he had really lost a lot of face. It was embarrassing before, and even more so now. He sat down with a gloomy face. He was extremely jealous of Lu Ming. Not only was there a rare beauty by Lu Ming's side, but he also had the opportunity to interact with Yun Haitang. He was so jealous that his eyes were about to burst into flames. You bastard! Xian Yanqing was speechless. She realized that he could never see through Lu Ming. Brother Lu, take this begonia flower and you can enter my courtyard at any time. Yun Haitang waved her hand and a begonia flower flew toward Lu Ming. It was a begonia flower sculpted from beautiful jade, as if it was real. Thank you, Miss Haitang. Lu Ming reached out to receive it and smiled. Then, he sat down with a smile. Pervert, you can't move after seeing a beautiful woman. You're indeed a perverted man. Xian Yanqing snorted in disdain. You're not jealous, are you? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing with a smile. Xian Yanqing blushed and pouted, who's jealous? Don't be so smug. Who would be jealous of you? Go and find your Haitang girl. But let me tell you, this Haitang flower is very prickly. Don't get yourself into trouble before you get to take advantage of her. Don't worry. I'll get her token of inscription. Lu Ming smiled and sent a voice transmission. Everyone. At this moment, Yun Songsheng, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. I also want to learn from Haitang and choose a person with great alchemy skills. He can come to me at any time to discuss alchemy. Yun Songsheng's words made many women's spirits rise, especially some young women. They looked at Yun Songsheng with burning eyes, hoping to attract his attention. Yun Songsheng's eyes turned and finally landed on Xian Yanqing. His eyes flashed with a fiery light and he smiled gently, Miss Xian Yanqing, I admire your alchemy skills. You can come to my courtyard anytime to discuss alchemy with me. How about it? The crowd followed Yun Songsheng's gaze and looked at Xian Yanqing. So it's her. No wonder she attracted Yun Songsheng's attention. The same thought flashed through many people's minds. Xian Yanqing's beauty was known to everyone. Other than Gu Huaxiu, there were more than 10 other young men who tried to talk to Xian Yanqing, but they were all chased away by Xian Yanqing. Many girls looked at Xian Yanqing with jealousy, but they also sighed in their hearts. They knew that they couldn't compare to Xian Yanqing. I'm not interested. To everyone's surprise, Xian Yanqing's reply was a cold one, no interest. The smile on Yun Songsheng's face froze. He didn't expect Xian Yanqing to reject him so directly. How could he get out of this situation? Miss Xia, please consider it. Yun Songsheng's face turned cold. I'm not interested. Xian Yanqing rejected her without hesitation. Yun Songsheng's face darkened. He had heard from others that there was a beautiful woman in this group, which was why he had come out with Yun Haitang. As soon as he arrived, he saw Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing's beauty moved his heart. He had wanted to learn from Yun Haitang and let Xian Yanqing interact with him more. After a while, how could Xian Yanqing escape from his grasp? However, he didn't expect Xian Yanqing to reject him so blatantly. Good, very good. Good. Yun Songsheng said. A vicious look flashed in the depths of his eyes. Then, he turned around and left. Xian Yanqing pursed his lips and didn't take it to heart. Yu Haitang glanced at Xian Yanqing. No one knew what she was thinking, but she smiled and said, all right, today, I will be explaining some knowledge of alchemy. If Haitang says something wrong, everyone can raise it and we can discuss it together. Then, Yun Haitang sat cross-legged on a futon and began to explain. Lu Ming also listened to it seriously. Although his mastery of inscriptions had reached a certain level, he was still a little rusty in alchemy. Otherwise, the pill wouldn't have such an uneven color. To be honest, Yun Haitang did have a deep understanding of the art of alchemy. Lu Ming was like a sponge, absorbing the knowledge of alchemy like crazy. Yun Haitang's lecture went on for 3 hours before she ended it. The crowd also dispersed. Lu Ming, when do you plan to make your move? Xian Yanqing asked on the way. In 2 days, find an opportunity to take action and seize the token of inscription. Lu Ming said. Hey, I say, don't be unable to resist the temptation of beauty. Xian Yanqing glared at Lu Ming and said worriedly. However, Lu Ming suddenly looked at her. Without blinking, he suddenly approached her and whispered, Don't worry, I can definitely withstand other people's beauty, but I can't withstand your beauty. You. Pervert. Xian Yanqing's face turned red and he kicked out. Lu Ming laughed and flew back, avoiding the kick and moving forward. Hey, this guy, why is his luck so good? He can meet beautiful women everywhere he goes. I've never met so many beautiful women in the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Dandan sighed repeatedly. She was jealous of Lu Ming. Soon, they were close to the dormitory. A few figures blocked the two's path. Gu Huaxiu and a few other young men. Lu Ming smiled faintly. It seemed that Gu Huaxiu could not hold it in any longer. What business do you have here? Lu Ming smiled faintly. What business do you have? Kid, don't you know what you've done wrong? A young man beside Gu Huaxiu shouted. That's right. Today, you've embarrassed young Master Hua. You've committed a heinous crime. Do you know your crime? Another young man followed suit. I embarrassed him. Ha, how laughable. Lu Ming laughed heartily. Kid, what are you laughing at? What's so funny about that? Gu Huaxiu said coldly. Isn't it funny? Did I embarrass you? You asked for it, all right? In the beginning, before Haitang could finish, you stood up by yourself. And later on, you were the one who stood up and said that my pills were not good enough. From the beginning to the end, have I ever said a single word? If you didn't ask for this, then what? Lu Ming said with a smile. How dare you? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have lost face in public. If it wasn't for you, the first place would have been me. Gu Huaxiu shouted. Lu Ming was speechless. He really did not understand the logic of this brother. He didn't have the ability, yet he blamed everything on others. How ridiculous was this? This was akin to blaming others for their good grades when one could not be the top scorer. Lu Ming could not understand such logic. Chapter 630. 630 Chapter 630 Conspiracy. Lu Ming shook his head. He could not be bothered to say anything to such a person. Kid, kneel down and admit your mistake. Then destroy your cultivation and get out of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. If you do that, I can spare your life. Gu Huaxiu said coldly. Idiot. Lu Ming sighed. Kid, what did you say? Gu Huaxiu's face turned dark. I said, idiot, get lost. Good dogs don't block the way. Lu Ming said coldly. Little bastard, you're looking for death. How dare you talk to young Master Gu like that? I'll cripple you. At the edge of the ancient flower void, a young man rushed out. He pointed his fingers like a sword and shot out beams of sword qi at Lu Ming's major acupuncture points. This young man had the cultivation of a level 5 martial king. If he was stabbed, Lu Ming's cultivation would be crippled. Bang! However, before his sword aura could even get close to Lu Ming, he was kicked away by Lu Ming. After flying for a few hundred meters, he crashed into a mound and dust filled the air. At this moment, some people in the surroundings were alarmed and stopped to watch from a distance. That Lu Ming seems to be quite powerful. He's just a 5th level lower tier king and he was sent flying with one move. I've never heard of him before. Could he be a genius from another region? In the surroundings, some people were whispering to each other. Gu Huaxiu's face turned even colder, so you have some ability. However, this bit of ability is nothing in front of me. Die. Gu Huaxiu's figure moved and he struck a palm at Lu Ming. The palm struck and the air rumbled with a sonic boom. The force of the palm was like an avalanche, surging towards Lu Ming. A king tier at the peak of the 7th level of the martial king realm. This was Gu Huaxiu's strength. At this age, to be able to reach this stage was already very good. Unfortunately, he had met Lu Ming. A long spear appeared in his hand and he swept it out. Bang! The spear collided with Gu Huaxiu's palm, and Gu Huaxiu's body retreated rapidly. Lu Ming and Wei Ran did not move. Of course, this was the result of Lu Ming holding back his power. Otherwise, Gu Huaxiu would have been blown up by the spear. Lu Ming did not want to reveal too much of his power and attract the attention of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Otherwise, it would be more difficult to obtain the heavenly demon fruit and the other party would definitely be more vigilant. Lu Ming suppressed his strength to be slightly stronger than Gu Huaxiu. Damn it, kill! Gu Huaxiu roared in anger and charged at Lu Ming again. His palm turned red and gold. One palm print after another landed on Lu Ming. The violent palm force shook the space. Lu Ming's long spear vibrated and shot out rays of spear radiance that clashed with Gu Huaxiu's palm force. With every spear radiance, Gu Huaxiu's palm print crumbled. Lu Ming strode forward and closed in on him. Lose! In the end, Lu Ming shouted and whipped his spear at Gu Huaxiu, sending him flying. Gu Huaxiu struggled to get up and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he glared at Lu Ming with hatred. Kid, just you wait. After saying that, Gu Huaxiu ran away. This Lu Ming is so strong. Not only is his alchemy technique brilliant, but his cultivation level is also very strong. He's a pretty good genius to have reached the late stages of the king tier at such a young age. Let's try not to provoke him in the future. The rest of the people looked at Lu Ming with fear and left one after another. I thought you would kill him in one move. Xian Yanqing said. It's easy to kill him, I'm just afraid of alerting the enemy. Lu Ming smiled and the two of them returned to the dormitory. As night fell, two figures were discussing something in a luxurious courtyard of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy. This was Begonia Courtyard. These two people were Yun Haitang and Yun Songsheng. Hee, that Gu Huaxiu actually made a move. That saved us a lot of trouble. I was planning to send someone to test Lu Ming's strength. Yun Haitang picked up a cup of red wine, took a sip, and smiled. Lever 7 King Warrior is not bad, but he's not a threat to us. That B/TCH Xian Yanqing actually dared to reject me in public. Damn it she's just B/TCH she's just putting on an act. I'll make her beg for mercy in my bed one day. Yun Songsheng said coldly. His voice was ice cold and his eyes were filled with lust. Don't touch that woman for now. At least, don't touch her before I get my hands on her. Otherwise, what if my prey is scared away? I feel that Lu Ming's mental energy fire is extraordinary. It must be delicious. As she spoke, Yun Haitang stuck out her tongue and licked her lips. Her eyes were filled with greed. This action was extremely provocative. Yun Songsheng swallowed a mouthful of saliva as he watched. His eyes were burning and his abdomen was burning. What's wrong? Want to come? I'll accompany you. Yun Haitang licked her lips and looked at Yun Songsheng with a seductive gaze. However, Yun Songsheng shivered and his body shrank back. A trace of fear flashed across his eyes as he smiled and said, "Forget it, I still have things to do, I'll be leaving first." After he finished speaking, Yun Songsheng left Begonia Courtyard as if he was escaping. Lu Ming. Yun Haitang murmured, and the greed in her eyes grew stronger. For 3 days in a row, different people explained the art of alchemy to them every day. Lu Ming's understanding of alchemy improved by leaps and bounds, and his alchemy skills also improved a lot. During this period, Lu Ming also tried to refine a few pills. He could clearly feel that every time he succeeded in refining a pill, the law of inscription would drop a trace of inscription power, strengthening his mental energy fire. However, the level of the pills he refined was lower than his inscription level. The flame of inscription that dropped was very little. Only by refining high-quality elixirs or elixirs of a higher grade than one's own would the inscription flames descend from the inscription laws be more. It would be of great help to the cultivation of mental energy fire. However, to reach that level was not something that could be achieved in a short time. For the past 3 days, Lu Ming did not look for Yun Haitang, and Yun Haitang did not send anyone to look for him. On the 3rd day, as night fell, a figure appeared in Lu Ming's dormitory. It was Xian Yinqing. "Lu Ming, I'll bring you to see something interesting," Xian Yinqing said. "Interesting things?" Lu Ming was stunned. "Follow me. Be careful," Xian Yinqing said. Then, the two of them concealed their auras and left the Cloud Sea Elixir dispensary. Soon, a few figures in black robes leaped out from the other side of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy and flew into the distance. "Let's go, we'll follow," Xian Yinqing muttered as the two of them followed the black-robed men and flew for hundreds of thousands of miles. At this moment, a few black-robed men suddenly landed in a small village. "We need to hurry up. We must collect the 99 innate blood qi by tonight," one of them said. Lu Ming found his voice somewhat familiar. They are indeed here to collect the innate blood qi. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Chapter 631. 631 Killing Yun Songsheng. A total of 3 black-robed men silently rushed into a wooden house. In the wooden house, there was a young man and a young woman who were not even 20 years old, and an infant. The black-robed man waved his hand, and 2 streams of Jin Yuan poured into the bodies of the young man and woman, causing them to fall unconscious. Then, the 3 black-robed men carved runes on their hands and inserted them into the baby's body. A blood-red gas was slowly extracted from the baby's heart. "Damn it!" Lu Ming's eyes flickered with cold murderous intent. Although he had heard about it, he still could not control the murderous intent in his heart when he saw it with his own eyes. Extracting the connate qi of infants to refine pills was a brutal method that took away one's life. Ta! Lu Ming did not hide his aura anymore. He strode into the wooden house. "Who is it?" The 3 black-robed men immediately noticed someone and shouted. "The person who will kill you." Lu Ming walked into the wooden house with a cold look in his eyes. Xian Yinqing followed suit. "It's the 2 of you. Ha, since you've discovered this, I can only send you on your way. I originally wanted to let you live for a few more days." One of the black-robed men sneered. "Yun Songsheng." Lu Ming's gaze flickered. No wonder he felt that this person's voice was familiar. At this moment, he guessed that it was Yun Songsheng. "Hee, that's me." The black-robed man took off the hood on his head, revealing a face full of killing intent. It was Yun Songsheng. Yun Songsheng's fiery eyes fell on Xian Yinqing and he sneered, "Bitch, you actually dared to reject me in public. Do you know that it's your fortune that this young master has taken a fancy to you? Today, I'll cripple your cultivation first, and then let you enjoy it, hee." "Lu Ming, leave this guy to me." Xian Yinqing's voice was cold and emotionless. "Of course you can." Lu Ming had already mourned for Yun Songsheng in his heart. "Attack. Just cripple their cultivation, I want them alive." Yun Songsheng waved his hand. Buzz! Buzz! At the same time, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing retreated from the wooden house and flew into the sky. "You want to leave? Don't even think about it." Yun Songsheng and the other 2 chased after him and reached a high altitude. "Leave? Who wants to leave? It's just that it's more convenient here." Lu Ming smiled faintly. Do it. I'll leave this kid to you. I'll personally serve that bitch. Yun Songsheng sneered and released a powerful aura. He was at the peak of Level 8 Martial King Realm. Yun Songsheng had actually reached the peak of Level 8 Martial King Realm. No wonder he was so arrogant. Boom. Boom. The other two black-robed men's auras also burst out. They were also at the early stage of the Level 8 Martial King Realm. Both of them pounced toward Lu Ming. Whoosh! Whoosh! Before the two black-robed men could reach him, their throats were pierced by the two spearlights, and they even let out a scream. Lu Ming's body flashed past and devoured their blood essence. The storage ring was also in his hands. This. Yun Songsheng's eyes suddenly widened as he looked at this scene in disbelief. Wasn't Lu Ming's cultivation level only slightly higher than Gu Huaxiu's? How did he suddenly become so strong? Two Level 8 Martial King Realm experts were killed before they could even react. Hiding his abilities. Lu Ming must have hidden his abilities earlier. Let's go. Without any hesitation, Yun Songsheng turned around and ran. To be able to kill two Level 8 Martial King Realm experts so easily, her combat strength was definitely above his. You want to leave? Xian Yanqing's eyes turned cold. He raised one of his jade-like hands and pressed it in the air. An invisible force field was created, and Yun Songsheng's body was frozen in the air, unable to move at all. What a wondrous martial technique! Lu Ming was shocked. He had already experienced this martial arts technique before. It was indeed extremely powerful. He had asked Xian Yanqing about it and learned that it was called the Sky Demon Force Field. However, Xian Yanqing had only just started learning about it. She had come to the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution to obtain the Sky Demon Fruit to cultivate the Sky Demon Force Field. With the Heavenly Demonic Fruit, her Heavenly Demonic Power Field could be upgraded to a higher level. Yun Songsheng was extremely frightened and tried his best to stab the needle. However, with his cultivation, he couldn't break free from the restraint of the Sky Demon Power Field. Let me go, what do you want? My father is the head of the Yun family, a Sea of Soul Realm expert. If you dare to kill me, my father will not let you off. Yun Songsheng shouted in fear. Lu Ming, wait for me here. He said. Xian Yanqing waved his hand and flew away with Yun Songsheng. Not long after, Yun Songsheng's shrill screams could be heard. Lu Ming couldn't bear to hear them. It seems that it's better to not offend women in the future. Lu Ming could feel his back sweating profusely. After a moment, the screams stopped and Xian Yanqing flew back alone. Let's go back. Xian Yanqing said. Dead? Lu Ming asked. Xian Yanqing nodded and flew forward. Lu Ming caught up and said, Yun Song's death will probably cause a commotion in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. We'd better keep a low profile. Xian Yanqing nodded. With their current battle power, it would be very difficult for them to fight against Sea of Soul Realm experts. The Spirit Sea Realm was much stronger than the Martial King Realm. An ordinary peak-tier king, an expert at the first level of the Spiritual Ocean tier, could kill a group of them with a single slap. The two of them returned to the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution without anyone noticing. In a mountain range hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy, Gu Huaxiu sat cross-legged on a mountain peak. Damn it, that brat, if I don't kill him, I'm not a human. Gu Huaxiu roared in a low voice, his face filled with hatred. Hee, kid, you want to take revenge? Stop dreaming. If I'm not wrong, Lu Ming didn't use his full strength when he fought you. You can even say that he only used a little strength. Suddenly, a dry and unpleasant voice sounded. This voice was extremely sudden, but there was clearly only Gu Huaxiu here. Gu Huaxiu didn't seem surprised at all, he just frowned and roared, "Are you saying that Lu Ming did not use his full strength? You should die." Hee, that's right. If I'm not wrong, that Lu Ming definitely has the combat strength of a peak-tier king. And that young lady gives off a very dangerous feeling. She's probably not weaker than that kid, or even stronger. The shriveled voice sounded again. Damn it, how did this happen? Then wouldn't I be unable to take revenge? Detestable. Gu Huaxiu roared. That's not for sure. You should have prepared the things I told you to prepare, right? As long as you do as I say, I can guarantee that your cultivation will skyrocket in a short time. It'll be more than enough to defeat the man and woman. The shriveled voice said. I've prepared everything, but I can really defeat Lu Ming in a short time. You said just now that he has the combat strength not weaker than a peak-tier king. Gu Huaxiu was in disbelief. Chapter 632. 632 Rapid Improvement. Brat, you're short-sighted. What's the big deal about defeating that brat? In the future, your cultivation will continue to soar, and it will be easy for you to enter the list of top 1,000 talents. At that time, Yun Haitang will throw herself into your arms, and you can have as many beautiful women as you want. The shriveled voice came out and painted a beautiful future for Gu Huaxiu. Gu Huaxiu's eyes were burning with passion. All right, senior, I'll listen to you. Gu Huaxiu gritted his teeth and a wine jar-sized jade bottle appeared in his hand. The jade bottle contained a dark green liquid that gave off a nauseating smell. Gu Huaxiu frowned. Boy, this strange medicine is my life's work. Although it stinks, it's only temporary. A great future awaits you in the future. Drink it quickly. The shriveled voice said. All right. Gu Huaxiu gritted his teeth, picked up the jade bottle, and gulped down the entire bottle of dark green liquid. Good, ha ha ha. The voice laughed excitedly. After a while, dark green lines appeared on Gu Huaxiu's abdomen. They covered his entire body and started to gather towards his head. What's going on? Why do I feel like I can't use my Jin Yuan, I can't even use my intent, and I can't even move my body, what's going on? Gu Huaxiu called out in panic. Ha ha ha, the heavens are on my side, the heavens are on my side. I can finally be resurrected. The shriveled voice let out a maniacal laugh. Then, a shadow flew out from Gu Huaxiu's body. It looked like an old man, and his eyes were filled with excitement. You. What are you trying to do? Gu Huaxiu finally felt that something was wrong. What do you want? Of course, I'm going to use your body to come back to the world. All my efforts were not in vain, haha. The old man laughed wildly before turning into a ray of light and entering Gu Huaxiu's forehead. What are you doing? Get out. Arg. Gu Huaxiu hollered. His face was extremely vicious and he was struggling like he was fighting with something. However, half an hour later, Gu Huaxiu's voice became softer and the light in his eyes dimmed. He closed his eyes, but in the next moment, his eyes suddenly opened, revealing a look of excitement and joy. Ha ha ha, I've finally seized this body and returned to the world. Good, very good. Moreover, I've made it in time for the Battle of Kismet, and this body just so happens to meet the requirements. This time, I'm going to seize a great opportunity. Gu Huaxiu laughed. To be exact, he was no longer Gu Huaxiu. Gu Huaxiu, I'll use your identity for now. However, your cultivation is too weak and needs to be improved first. Also, there seems to be some good things in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. You must get them. Gu Huaxiu grinned and then sat down to cultivate. As he cultivated, the spiritual qi in the world started to gather in Gu Huaxiu's body. His aura also started to increase. Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. As expected, from the second day onwards, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing felt that the atmosphere in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution had changed. It had become a little heavy. Moreover, there was no one to give lessons to them. Lu Ming and the rest suddenly became idle. Yun Haitang had also disappeared. She had not shown her face and did not come to look for Lu Ming. Lu Ming knew that something must have happened to Yun Songsheng, which had alerted the higher-ups of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Many of the things that the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution had done couldn't be exposed. They were afraid of attracting the attention of the major forces. He believed that during this period of time, they would not dare to go out and collect the innate blood qi. Since he was fine, Lu Ming simply stayed in the dormitory and cultivated in peace. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the Supreme Shrine. There were some strange metals placed beside him. They were all refining materials. With a roll of his essential core, a piece of dark golden metal appeared in front of Lu Ming. He stretched out his hand and pointed. A yellow flame flew out, wrapped around the dark golden metal, and began to burn. Lu Ming's mental energy fire used the geocentric flowing flame as its kindling. Its temperature was terrifyingly high. In a short while, the dark golden metal had completely turned into a pool of liquid. It rolled in the air and sizzled in the flame. One could see wisps of black flames floating upwards. These were the impurities in the metal that had been burned. After a moment, Lu Ming added another piece of metal and continued to condense it with his mental energy fire. Just like that, Lu Ming added 6 types of metals in a row. The 6 types of metals turned into liquid and fused together. Slowly, the liquid metal turned into a long sword with strange patterns on it. The blade was extremely sharp. However, it was only a semi-finished product. When the long sword was formed, Lu Ming began to inscribe rapidly in the air with his fingers. Lines of inscriptions flew into the sword and disappeared. The aura on the sword grew stronger and stronger, giving off a sharp feeling. The speed at which Lu Ming's fingers inscribed the runes was getting faster and faster. It was so fast that only a bunch of shadows were left. Half an hour later, Lu Ming heaved a long sigh of relief and stopped inscribing. He also kept his mental energy fire. The long sword landed in Lu Ming's hands. Buzz! Buzz! Lu Ming picked up the long sword and waved it a few times. There was a sharp sound of the sword cutting through the air. A 3rd-level upper spiritual weapon. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up into a smile as he felt the inscription power from the inscription law. This was Lu Ming's first time forging a weapon, and he had already forged an upper 3rd-level spiritual weapon. Lu Ming was already quite satisfied. This was related to Lu Ming's previous 2 levels, where he had lit up 10 mental lamps in the state of perfection. As long as Lu Ming was familiar with it for a period of time, it would not be too difficult for him to refine 3rd-level exquisite or peerless spiritual weapons. He could even refine 4th-level spiritual weapons. In the following period of time, other than taking some time out every day to comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth and the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps, Lu Ming spent most of his time cultivating the underworld god meditation, refining pills, and refining weapons. Moreover, Lu Ming felt that he was more talented in refining. Under Danden's guidance, Lu Ming managed to forge a superior 3rd-level spiritual weapon 3 days later. 7 days later, he managed to forge a peerless 3rd-level spiritual weapon. 12 days later, Lu Ming successfully refined a lower 4th-level spiritual weapon. If one refined a high-quality spirit weapon or a spirit weapon that was beyond one's level, the power of inscription from the law of inscription would increase greatly. It was much faster than cultivating the underworld god visualization. Lu Ming's mental energy fire was improving very quickly. In just half a month, Lu Ming had successfully lit up the 8th spirit lamp and was close to the 9th. Lu Ming's goal was 10 mind lamps. It was only possible for him to possess the underworld god visualization and be able to forge spirit weapons above his level. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't even be able to think about it. The atmosphere in the Cloud Sea Alchemy Academy had been very strange for the past half a month. However, as time passed, it slowly returned to its previous state. On the 16th day, an elder finally came out to give a lecture. Young Master Lu Ming, Miss Hai Tang would like to invite you to Begonia Courtyard for a chat. At this moment, a young maidservant came to Lu Ming. Chapter 633. 633 Begonia Courtyard. It was finally here. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Your good fortune is here, you must grasp it well. Xian Yanqing glanced at Lu Ming and said in a strange tone. Lu Ming smiled wryly and winked at Xian Yanqing. Then, he followed the maidservant and headed to Begonia Courtyard. Begonia Courtyard was located on another mountain peak with beautiful scenery. Although it was a courtyard, it was built in a luxurious way and occupied a large area. It could be said that this entire mountain peak was Begonia Courtyard's territory. There were even stone palaces built in the middle of the mountain. The maidservant led Lu Ming around the place and arrived at a stone hall. This stone palace was built in the middle of the mountain, so light couldn't directly shine in. The walls of the stone palace were inlaid with some luminous stones, making the stone palace look hazy. In the stone hall, there was a jade table and a few jade stools. On the jade table, there were already some spirit fruits, wine, and food. After the maidservant brought Lu Ming here, she left, leaving him alone in the stone hall. Lu Ming sized up his surroundings with great interest. Then, he picked up his glass, poured himself a glass of wine, and finished it in one gulp. Good wine. Lu Ming could not help but sigh in admiration. This wine was rich in taste. After it entered his stomach, he felt warm all over and it had an endless aftertaste. Since it's good wine, Brother Lu must drink a few more cups today. A sweet voice was heard, and Yun Haitang walked in. Today, Yun Haitang was wearing a black gauze dress and looked very beautiful. To be honest, Yun Haitang's figure was extremely impressive and was only slightly inferior to Mulan's. Any man would be tempted. Lu Ming was a normal man. Yun Haitang sat on the stone bench next to Lu Ming and smiled. Brother Lu, I gave you the right to come to Begonia Courtyard to find me at any time, but you didn't come after such a long time, and even asked this little sister to send someone to invite you. That's not very kind of you, you must drink 3 cups as a punishment. Yun Haitang poured a glass of wine for Lu Ming. She smiled sweetly and her voice was so sweet that it could penetrate one's heart. All right, you deserve to be punished. Lu Ming smiled, picked up the glass of wine, and drank it in one go. Then, Yun Haitang poured another glass of wine for Lu Ming. Just like that, Lu Ming drank 3 glasses in a row. I'm really impressed by Brother Lu's Tao of Inscription. I feel that even though you're only a 3rd-rank alchemist, your spiritual power should be on par with some 4th-rank alchemists. Could it be that you've lit 5 spiritual lamps at every rank? Yun Haitang blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled. Not bad. I'm lucky to have lit up 5 mental lamps in the first 2 levels. As soon as Lu Ming said this, Yun Haitang's eyes suddenly lit up. There was a flash of greed in the depths of her eyes. Brother Lu's talent is really admirable. Come, let me toast you. Yun Haitang picked up the glass and drank it all. After drinking the glass of wine, Yun Haitang's face immediately flushed red, making her look even more alluring. At this moment, a maidservant hurriedly walked in. Yun Haitang's face immediately darkened. Can't you see that I'm drinking with young Master Lu? What are you doing here? Miss. The maidservant's face paled, and a hint of fear appeared on her face. However, she still walked over and whispered a few words into Yun Haitang's ear. Yun Haitang's expression changed slightly. You may leave. The maidservant immediately took her leave. Brother Lu, I have a small matter to deal with. wait for me here. Yun Haitang said in a sweet voice. Alright, it's fine. Haitang, please do as you please. Lu Ming smiled. Yun Haitang stood up and left. Lu Ming picked up the glass of wine and took another sip. Then, he stood up and started to inscribe in the air with his hands. Runes appeared one after another and entered his body. This was an inscription formation that had been inscribed before to conceal one's aura. Although this formation wasn't very advanced, it had a unique effect in concealing one's aura. According to Dandan, this was its own creation. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, even a Sea of Soul Realm expert would not be able to sense his aura. Runes appeared on Lu Ming's body and disappeared in a flash. The aura on Lu Ming's body also disappeared without a trace. It was much more effective than him circulating his cultivation to hide his aura. Then, Lu Ming moved and left the stone hall. He passed through several corridors and secret rooms before he saw another stone hall. A voice came from the stone hall. Lu Ming dashed into the stone hall silently and hid in a corner. This stone hall was even bigger than the one Lu Ming had been in earlier. A young man was sitting at a table with Yun Haitang. Haitang, I haven't seen you in a while. I've missed you so much. You see, I came to see you as soon as I finished my business. The young man looked at Yun Haitang, his eyes burning with anger. You really missed me? You're not allowed to lie to me. Yun Haitang smiled and poured the young man a cup of wine. Of course it's true. Sigh, if it weren't for the problem with my cultivation of mental fire recently, not only not making any progress, but also constantly regressing, I really don't want to leave. I want to stay here and accompany you. The young man said. Your family's elders didn't find out the reason for your mental fire's regression? Yun Haitang's eyes flashed as she asked in a sweet voice. No, it's really strange. The young man mumbled. Then, his eyes fell on Yun Haitang with a burning desire. I don't care. If my mental fire has regressed, so be it. As long as Haitang is here, even if I can't cultivate, it doesn't matter. As he spoke, the young man put his arm around Yun Haitang. The two of them were entangled. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He did not expect to encounter such a scene when he came to check on the situation. To be honest, this was the first time Lu Ming had seen such a situation. He touched his nose and watched with great interest. The young man's breathing became heavier and heavier. A moment later, the young man let out a low roar like a wild beast. At this moment, a scene that shocked Lu Ming appeared. 3 green spirit lamps appeared above the young man's head. On them were green spirit fire. This meant that the young man was a level 4 inscriber. Above Yun Haitang's head, a spirit lamp also appeared. There were 5 green spirit lamps. But at this time, Yun Haitang's spirit fire had actually gathered into a poisonous snake. It opened its mouth and sucked. The young man's spirit fire was absorbed by the poisonous snake and turned into Yun Haitang's spirit fire. Chapter 634. 634. You're making me very awkward. The young man was currently immersed in happiness and did not notice his own abnormality at all. Yun Haitang's eyes flashed with crazy greed. That poisonous snake kept absorbing the young man's mental energy fire. The flames of the young man's 3 mind lamps quickly dimmed, especially the flame of the 3rd lamp, which was on the verge of being extinguished. It was no wonder that the young man had said that his mental fire was weakening and that his cultivation of the mental fire was not advancing but regressing instead. He played this game with Yun Haitang every day, so it would be strange if he didn't leave. Moreover, he had not noticed it at all. Yun Haitang was using this method to cultivate her mental energy fire. Lu Ming felt a chill run down his spine. This process only took about a dozen breaths of time. The mental energy fire above their heads had hidden and disappeared. The young man was like a pile of mud, lying limply on the ground. You rest here for a while, I still have something to deal with, Yun Haitang said to the young man. The young man nodded. At this moment, Lu Ming quietly retreated from the stone hall and returned to the stone hall from before. He poured himself a glass of wine and slowly sipped it. Not long after, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Yun Haitang had returned. Brother Lu, sorry to keep you waiting, Yun Haitang said in a sweet voice as she walked over. Lu Ming could not help but shiver at the thought of the scene just now. He was not in the mood to admire it at all. He only said perfunctorily, I didn't wait long, you're pretty fast. He did feel that the old man was quite fast. Yun Haitang smiled faintly and sat down beside Lu Ming. She poured a glass of wine for him and another for herself. Brother Lu, I'll drink a cup as punishment. Then, he picked up his wine cup and drank it all. After putting down the wine glass, Yun Haitang blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming. After a while, she said, Brother Lu, I've invited you here today because I have something to tell you. Oh. What did he say? Lu Ming said with a smile. Yun Haitang's face blushed as she inched closer to Lu Ming and placed her hand on his shoulder. Actually, the first time I saw Brother Lu, I thought you were the man I've been waiting for my whole life. I've been missing you a lot recently. With that, Yun Haitang was about to sit on Lu Ming's lap. Her fragrance assailed his nose. No man would be able to resist the temptation of such a rare beauty like Yun Haitang. If Lu Ming had not seen that scene just now, he might have been tempted. But at this moment, he didn't feel anything at all. He said indifferently, in my opinion, you don't miss me, but my mental energy fire. His calm and indifferent voice made Yun Haitang's movements freeze. Her body, which had almost sat on Lu Ming's lap, froze in the air. There was an ugly smile on her face. She looked at Lu Ming and said in a tender voice, Brother Lu, what are you saying? I don't understand what you're talking about. There's a problem that I have to correct you. I'm younger than you, and you're calling me little sister. It's embarrassing. Lu Ming said very seriously. Hee, so it's little brother. I thought you were older than me. Yun Haitang's face froze for a moment, then she smiled again. One more thing. After you left, I was bored, so I walked around and happened to see the wonderful scene between you and that young master. Hee, I wonder what will happen if this scene gets out. Lu Ming chuckled. Yun Haitang's expression changed completely. She became extremely gloomy, and her eyes revealed a cold killing intent. Little brother, it's not good to walk around in other people's territory. You'll have to pay with your life. As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Haitang's fingers were like sharp swords, aimed at Lu Ming's throat. Her hand was originally on Lu Ming's shoulder, and they were too close. Yun Haitang was 100% confident that she could kill Lu Ming with this move. However, the next moment, her 100% confidence turned into zero. This was because Lu Ming's hand had already grabbed her wrist. She did not even know how Lu Ming had managed to grab her wrist. Even with her cultivation at the peak of the 8th level of the Martial King realm, she did not feel anything. Kill. In an instant, a short sword appeared in her other hand and she slashed it at Lu Ming's throat. However, at the next moment, her hand was grabbed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming grabbed her wrists and a terrifyingly powerful vital essence surged into Yun Haitang's body. Yun Haitang's body went soft and her vital energy dissipated. She had no strength to resist. Her heart sank. Who are you? What are you trying to do? Yun Haitang cried out. Lu Ming's cultivation level was too terrifying. It was far above his. Nothing much. I just want to take your inscription plate. If I can get rid of evil for the people, I don't mind helping you. Lu Ming smiled faintly. You killed Yun Songsheng, didn't you? Yun Haitang asked. It can be considered so. Lu Ming nodded. Why you? The Yun family's ancestor won't let you off if you do this. Yun Haitang called out. Is that so? Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and murderous intent filled the air. Miss. At this moment, a few maidservants heard the commotion and rushed in. Lu Ming flicked his fingers and a spear's gleam shot out, piercing through the maidservants' dantians and crippling their cultivation. He also sealed their ability to speak, preventing them from speaking for the time being. Feeling the cold killing intent from Lu Ming, Yun Haitang was scared. Her face turned pale and she begged, Lu Ming, Brother Lu, I'm begging you, please let me go. I can give you anything you want. Furthermore, I'll serve you well until you're comfortable. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. The implied meaning was self-evident. I don't need it anymore. Lu Ming smiled faintly. With that, he moved like the wind and pointed at Yun Haitang's dantian. Yun Haitang's breathing current collapsed, and she fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Her eyes were filled with despair. Then, Lu Ming tapped Yun Haitang's glabella a few times. 5 spirit lamps appeared above Yun Haitang's head. The spirit lamps swayed a few times and then collapsed one by one. Yun Haitang's cultivation and Tao of inscription had been completely destroyed. Lu Ming used his essential core to take Yun Haitang's storage ring and held it in his hand. Lu Ming, kill me if you can, otherwise, I won't let you off. Yun Haitang let out a venomous cry. You will never be able to pose a threat to me. Lu Ming cast a nonchalant glance at Yun Haitang, his tone full of confidence. Yun Haitang was nothing to him. Furthermore, she was a person who had lost her cultivation and her Tao of inscription. With a flick of his finger, a burst of vital essence flew out and sealed Yun Haitang's acupuncture points, making her unable to speak. Then, Lu Ming left Begonia Courtyard in a flash and went to Xian Yanqing's dormitory. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.